Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mayor and City Council combined meeting Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. If you'd please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please show all council members present. We're going to go right into approval of the minutes from October 8th, 2025 combined meeting. Does this council have any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, looking for a motion in regards to it. Approve. Looking for a second.
Second.
Give it to Harry. Councilmember Mead, my bad. Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have Proclamation Municipal Government Works Month. Whereas the City of Taneytown was established in 1754, and whereas the City of Taneytown is one of 157 municipalities incorporated in the state of Maryland, and whereas the Mayor and City Council recognize and celebrate that municipal government represents the most responsive level of government, allowing citizens to have direct access to elected officials, and whereas in an effort to educate citizens about municipal government and the importance of their participation, the City of Taneytown is proud to promote municipal government awareness, and whereas municipalities have enhanced the quality of life for their respective residents, maintaining natural and historic sites and structures, and helping to make Maryland a great place to live, work, play, and explore. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Taneytown, Maryland, hereby join the Maryland Municipal League and declare November to be Municipal Government Works Month in Taneytown. I'll sign this and get this back to you, Clara. Just to note this as well as for Municipal Government Works Month, me and Councilmember Collinock will be at the library on November.
Saturday.
Yeah, what is it? November 21st? 22nd?
It's the 22nd, yes.
November 22nd from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., hosting a discussion regarding parks and recreation, and again, any other topics of conversation that residents would like to talk with us about. Everybody is invited. There will be pizza and some light drinks there. So with that said, I'm going to continue down to council member statement regarding conflicts of interest on agenda items. Do any council members have a conflict of interest they'd like to state today? Hearing none, I'm proceeding forward to public hearing ordinance 21-2025, amendment to restricted industrial district. Jim, are we still doing the public hearing tonight?
We are doing the public hearing tonight, although I am going to recommend that we hold off on passage until we have a little bit more discussion on battery energy storage systems and solar, as to whether we want to include some language related to the state legislation on those matters. And also, I realized this evening in reviewing it that where we talk about the combined retail and services uses not to exceed 25% of the total lot area, including the uses that were listed, that were added, that actually falls under the special exception segment, and I think we may want to pull some of that language out and put it back up in section B instead of section C. So I think we might have a little tweak there to make also before we approve it.
So just to check,
hearing tonight, but
yep.
I'd
When
like
did
to hold off
we
until
first
next month.
introduce? That's kind of my only concern here is we have 70 days from introduction.
Right, and it may have to go back through the whole cycle again.
That's fine. I just to clarify that. So while the city manager is asking for no adoption tonight for further discussion on some of the other items that have popped up, just so council is aware, it'll have to go back through the cycle once it hits the 70-day mark. Once it hits the 70-day mark, our charter says that no ordinance shall be adopted after the 70-day mark. That's basically the closure period after it's been introduced. So you have 70 days after introduction to make the final edits, adoption, and whatnot. So again, I think it does hit that before the next meeting. So just be aware that this will have to go back through the introduction public hearing. So do you want me to open up public hearing tonight?
Well, by the looks of the gallery, I don't know if if we'll have any comments, but if there
Yeah,
would
we
be
can open it
any,
up
we can
for-
always take them into consideration for, edit to the,
Yep, for the edits in the
Draft.
future. That's
Right.
fine. So we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for ordinance 21-2025, amendment to restricted industrial district. This public hearing will remain open until the end of the meeting. If you'd like to make comments on it, please motion to come up to the microphone, and I will motion you forward when it is your time to come up. Continuing forward, public comment pertaining to agenda and non-agenda items. To comment on a specific agenda item after it has been discussed by the council, please sign up with the city clerk, and you'll be asked to come forward at the appropriate time. That being said, I am now opening public comment pertaining to agenda and non-agenda items. I'm not seeing any movement. Jim? Oh, good. So considering forward, we did add one new item to the agenda that you will have seen. I don't remember, we didn't have it in the October one yet, Jim, right? This was the first time we have consideration and review, correct, to the agenda? Yep, that's the new one we added for.
Yes.
So consideration review was a new, basically, agenda stop point, or a stop point that was added to the agenda where, you could say, hey, I haven't had a time to review X, Y, Z. Can I have 5 minutes? Can I have 10 minutes? And basically, we kind of pause while everybody reviews. There has been some additional things. We got an attorney memo that came in about, 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago, regarding a Board of Appeals decision that happened, and we'll end up talking about that under new business. Unless, do you want to dive into it now?
I was going to give an overview during my report.
I mean,
we can
that's-
certainly,
Yeah, I kind of want to get Jim out of here if that's what if he's mainly here for. Let's go ahead and head into it now, because we're in consideration and review. Since it is a new document, if council would like to pull it out, it should have been on your table somewhere. It's not going to be in your electronic packet. Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
So it is going to be. Actually, my stuff's all messed up. Where'd I put it? Why don't I have it? Jim, do you have an extra? Yeah, I thought.
No, that's what I just, yeah. I
So
gave
this
that
is
one to
the attorney document for the Board of Zoning Appeals. If everybody wants to take just a brief minute to go ahead and read through it. I know we have a chair for the planning and zoning here. I know he'll probably want to be part of this discussion as the board kind of talks, or the council talks about it. But essentially, everybody, if you don't mind just taking about 5 minutes, go ahead and read through it. I'm going to have Jim address it first, and then I'm going to carry over to Harry for planning and zoning, and then I'm going to open it up for public feedback on it real quick. So
Can I ask for like an executive summary, highlight of like what is
there
this
is,
about?
But I'm going to say stuff too.
I think, Jim, did you say if there's kind of a summary towards the back on this one?
So-
Or unless you just want to
So
give
the
it
overall memo outlines the process that of a Board of Appeals hearing. Then also it outlines the process to appeal the decision of the Board of Appeals. And the pertinent things for us based on, it may not make sense without a little more background, but the last 3 paragraphs really sum up the attorney's conclusions on the matter. It pretty much boils down to the Planning Commission is unhappy with the Board of Appeals decision on the McDonald's case. And there has been some conversation about whether that decision should be appealed. So because this is not an in-house sort of situation that it would go to the circuit court,
This would be us appealing it,
it
correct?
would be,
Or-
right, this would be as the city.
Appealing to
would
one of our
appeal
boards,
One of our board's decisions. So basically, we would be paying for 2 attorneys to argue the case from both sides. And the short version is essentially that the board met all the standards required to reach the conclusion that they did and to reach the decision that they did. So the success of an appeal is unlikely. But because we would be engaging special counsel to basically argue the case on behalf of the city and planning commission, and the current special counsel would basically, since he represented
Yeah,
the
you
board
can't do
on that
both.
case, he would likely represent the Board of Appeals. So we're in an awkward situation where we have, two of our boards that are, disagreeing over something. So the memo kind of clarifies the authority in the process and
So Planning Commission
Summarizes the-
disagrees with the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Planning Commission potentially wants to appeal the Board of
That
Zoning
decision.
Appeals decision.
However, council would have to approve it because we'd have to bring on additional special counsel
Right.
to do the appeal.
Okay, got it.
right.
Thank you.
So that's where your guys' involvement comes in, is if this wanted to carry your process forward, council would have to bring on an additional counsel to represent the city versus the
For the litigation.
board decision, yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
So again, I'll give everybody about 2-3 minutes if there's any, just look through it if you have any additional questions before Jim, did you have any further details that you wanted to go into?
Well,
on it?
as far as the specifics of the McDonald's case, it surrounds the McDonald's requested a parking variance, a reduction in the number of parking spaces required based on the square footage of the restaurant and the number of tables. So the case, basically, the summary is there are going to be fewer seats in the dining room portion of the restaurant, that they are seeing, the majority of the food service now is through the drive-through and less in the dining room. The restaurant is, the overall square footage is being reduced also, and they have requested a reduction to the number of parking spaces required, and have explained that their business model is such that, it's primarily it's becoming more and more drive-through oriented and less eat-in. They brought in, a traffic consultant, and he gave testimony as an expert on the matter. They answered all of the Board of Appeals questions on it. However, when the Planning Commission reviewed the concept plan and there was discussion about parking, there was also discussion about there being a number of unutilized parking spaces or underutilized parking in the adjacent shopping center. And there was a question about whether there was an agreement with the shopping center for overflow parking from McDonald's. The Planning Commission recommended that if an agreement were reached, that we ensure that there's a crosswalk and adequate lighting and such if the shopping center parking lot was to be used. And I think a comment to the extent of, and I'm not trying to report or quote by any means, but, was essentially,
Get a paraphrase.
if things fill up, there's, plenty of parking in the shopping center that folks could use. And
But they don't have a
there-
strict
and there
agreement
is
with
no
that.
And there is no written agreement with the shopping center. And
It doesn't sound
that
like they
was
want to
not,
entertain
that was not
doing that.
highlighted the same way at the Board of Appeals hearing. So the Planning Commission, I believe, feels that, that the Board of Appeals didn't get the same presentation of the same information that they had during the case. And I certainly will defer to Councilman Meade or Chairman Parker, to elaborate on that. But that, I think, would be, I think, a summary of the scenario.
Yep.
So McDonald's is changing their structure. They're getting rid of indoor seating. They're moving more closer to a drive-through model, reducing parking spaces. They want if there is overflow parking, they want that to be over in the shopping center, which
Again, no formal
Planning Commission,
agreement.
there's no formal agreement, so they think that McDonald's should get a formal agreement. If that happens, then there should be changes like the,
And they,
Well,
from my understanding,
I don't think McDonald's is indicating that there
not
should be
going
no
to.
need
Yeah.
for
get
the
the
overflow.
agreement, yep.
And again, to get into a little bit more detail, they did some observation of the parking on, I believe it was like a
3 weekdays.
Thursday,
or
Friday,
something.
Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which, represented kind of their peak periods, and that there were,
they
The
had
most they
more
got
than
to-
adequate parking, even at the busiest point, there were, I
The
think,
most they got
15
to
vehicles
15
parked
15
there.
out of 19 spots, I
And-
think it
right.
was, yeah.
And the current plan provides for, more spaces than they saw being utilized with the current number of seats and stuff, which is going to be reduced with the new plan.
And I think
So
they're also
not-
taking out the
right.
playground From my,
Yes.
from my
Like,
understanding, and yeah,
Yeah,
so
they're turning it into
yeah.
a smaller
The
box
normal,
space.
and that's where they're all kind of, and they alluded to
I've
that
seen
during
them.
their testimony as well. That's where they're gravitating with some
Yeah.
of the new
So,
changes.
and they indicated either at the, I don't remember if it was Planning Commission or Board of Appeals that, you know, and I think the other quick serve restaurant indicated the same thing, that their business model, you know, is such that if people, you know, go and see a full parking lot and drive on by, that's acceptable. That's a matter of routine for them. So, I think that's a fair summary.
So again, that's summary from the city side. I'm going to let Councilmember Mead talk about kind of the planning and zoning aspect of how they're feeling on that, and I'm going to let Chairman Parker from Planning and Zoning come up and kind of give his take on it as well. Councilmember Mead, I'll let you.
There have been a few questions that have come up during the McDonald's hearings, where when we approved it initially we sent it along with recommendation to approve the zoning variance. Can't talk. But we put the amendment on it that they needed to get, if they were going to do what they talked about and try to annex part of, or utilize part of the shopping center parking lot, they needed an agreement with them. There was also a couple of other things that struck some of the members wrong, where in their traffic study, they had mentioned that there was going to be fewer trips after the renovation, to which I point blank asked, then why are you doing the renovation?
Sorry, say it again? They're doing
The
fewer
traffic
what?
study said that there will be fewer trips through after the renovation.
So they're expecting less people to come? Is that how I understand that?
That's how a bunch of us understood it. And so there's been some inconsistencies and mild red flags going on, from changing what they, when they talked at our meeting, they talked about the shopping center. At zoning appeals, from what I understand, they didn't really talk about the shopping center. They just went with their number of parking spaces, even though they put the shopping center in their traffic report. So there was enough inconsistencies that it was brought up, hey, since we feel that the zoning appeals board got a different story than we did, is there grounds for us to say, okay, that was approved under, that was different than what, you guys are telling different groups,
You're missing
different.
material information.
Yeah, you're telling,
Yeah.
they were missing material information that was given to us at that time. So that's why they asked for an opinion. Now we've got the opinion. I'm going to imagine that we're going to pretty much end up saying, just roll with it because this is going to be silly. But
Is that where you stand?
that's pretty. I'm not happy. But they have managed to follow all of the rules, and they've got the zoning variance. So if this was before the zoning variance, we might have a little bit more of a leg to stand on. I'm not happy about how we got here, but now we're here, and the zoning variance has been approved. There's no reason for us to be able to disapprove it under ordinance laws or whatever.
Under the parking part. And again, that's what's given me, the city manager, and kind of planning, the planning director, Andrew, cold feet right now, is just, unless we do enter that appeals process, the board doesn't have much criteria to shoot down their concept plan, if I'm speaking correctly, Jim.
Right, so the reason that we couldn't approve the concept prior to the Board of Appeals hearing is because the parking was way under the code requirement. So even at a concept level, we knew it was not going to meet city code, right up
Yeah.
front. And just one item that was just mentioned was about the reduction in the number of trips, and I think that the traffic engineer indicated that using all the standard methodology, a smaller footprint of the restaurant generates fewer vehicular trips just based on the standard, calculations. You've got a bigger restaurant, more trips, a smaller restaurant, fewer trips. But I think that they also did indicate that it's, that they would anticipate the traffic remaining about the same, and that it's all about, moving, serving the customers more quickly and more efficiently. But they weren't expecting an increase in the amount of traffic over what there was today. But again, just
There'd be no
using all
reason
the
to
standard
expect an increase in
methodology,
traffic
which is
without
based on
growth.
the square footage of the restaurant, the square footage is shrinking. So when you run the numbers and, X square feet equals X trips, if you're reducing.
Yeah, if that's the method,
One
if
of
that's
the
the method
factors.
being used to come to the.
Right, mathematically, just
Are
using
they
the
expanding their
standard.
drive-through though? Like going from 2 to 3 lanes or whatever?
Well,
Is that-
it's
is that
still
still,
gonna
it's
be
just
two.
going to 2 lanes
It's gonna,
for the
but
entirety.
they're gonna make the 2
Expand
lanes
it,
longer.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
How it's
gonna
kind of that curve right now. My understanding is they're going to basically curve it all the way out.
Yeah.
The 2 lanes go just about halfway back on the building, on the new building. So it's separate from back there all the way through. They've got 3 real windows, instead of please pull up to the railing. So it's designed to put more cars through there. It seemed odd to some of us that they would even include the lower trip thing, just because it's like
Expecting to make less money, that's weird
it
for a
brought up the
business.
question, why you doing it then?
Yeah.
So that's basically, there was enough to ask the question and get an opinion. Now that the opinion is here, based on this opinion and based on where we are in the process, I think that, for me, I would say, yeah, we have no reason to not approve it. Not necessarily that I want to approve it, because I don't.
Well, it's already approved,
I'm
right?
not fond of
Not,
them.
the
We have
concept
not-
plan got shut
concept
down,
plan,
and it
yeah.
got shot down based on that the board wanted to appeal it. And that's kind of, that's what worries us in the city's end is, they don't have cause because there is no active appeal. So they were granted the variance, and the reason why it was shot down was because of the parking. So there is no real reason to shoot down the concept plan. And again, I know this will be shared out with the board members as well. So they'll,
Clarify, when you're saying shut down, I think
Or-
we're talking deferred.
Deferred,
Not
yeah.
denied, so.
basically deferred to where to come back to say whether we can go through the appeals, or whether we should go through the appeals process or not. But it wasn't approved that night, and again, that's what kind of worries us, is because the variance was granted. So I think everybody wanted to see some kind of legal opinion here to make sure everybody's moving on clear grounds as to what that looks like. Chairman Parker, I'll let you, if you want to add some comments.
You've heard tonight was pretty much 100% of what actually was said. I think our biggest concern was that the 2 commissions was misled from what was told to us as the planning, and what was told to the Board of Appeals wasn't exactly the same. Agreed, it was 42 required parking spaces. They wanted 21, something like that. We were okay with that as long as they made provisions somewhere else, off-site parking. But what they didn't take in consideration, and what we felt didn't or wasn't related to the Board of Appeals, was there was 10 employees working with no parking spaces. We were told, or they were told, that their employees was required to park on McDonald's parking lot. So if you take 8 or 10 parking spaces away from 22 or 19, at least 10, 12, something like that, and then you take 2 parking spaces for people to pull over waiting for their food to come out, that wasn't relayed to the Board of Appeals. And that's why we feel that it was misrepresented to do 2 separate commissions. And where we're at today is, we wanted to know what our options were as the Planning Commission. And since I haven't had the opportunity to read from the
Yeah, we just got it.
Legal
We
account.
just got it in today. So that's, apologies, that hasn't been sent out to the board yet, but council's seeing this about 3 hours after we actually got it in. So again, it will make its way over to the boards. This is just mainly getting it to council so they can figure out, because the board can't take this action of the appeal without council approving additional counsel to do the appeal process. So that's why it had to kind of come here first before it came your guys' way.
I would like to have a copy of that as soon as I could.
Yep, and again, Jim can even get you one after the meeting. It's gonna make its way over to you. Again, apologies, it hasn't yet, but I think Jim texted me at 3 p.m. Hey, we just got the attorney letter in. So again,
I've read it if you want to take it back with you.
All right, I'll get one.
One question, and just because I haven't been as involved as you or Councilmember Mead, and it isn't, I'm just wondering, when they were doing it, I know they had the 2 for pullover parking from the drive-through. There was more originally, right? And then they reduced that?
They reduced it to 2.
Okay, because I remember it was almost half of it, wasn't it? It was like
No,
7
what they had was most of the right side was
Mobile only?
mobile pickup.
Like DoorDash and.
Like,
DoorDash,
well,
yes.
no, they're
No, it's if you
they're-
ordered
they're
on your
their
app. Order on
Their
your app and pull
mobile
up.
pickup, but then they had 2 DoorDash spaces.
And they wanted that specifically reserved.
Basically,
didn't
they were designating
Yeah.
almost every space in there for something other
Other than
than
just parking.
somebody parking and going
Because
in the restaurant.
once you did that with the employees and you counted those, you basically had no parking for anybody. So I get that concern there. But they have reduced it. Those aren't mandatory now, right? Those aren't restrictive, is what I thought.
They cut back the number of those
Okay.
other spaces. I think
Yeah.
they went down to 2.
The 2.
That were.
I was just making sure those weren't still in play.
But we
'cause I
went
know
from
that
42
Yeah.
down
yeah.
to about 10.
What was the current number now? Is it 42 right now?
No,
Okay, I was gonna say,
no,
there's
they
way
would
I
have
could-
already gotten, they got
They
a
had a
variance
variance
the
for
last
their
time
original one,
as
yeah.
well.
So I think it was like, what, 26 or something?
Yeah.
Right?
I think in that area.
I thought it was 26, and I think they're coming down to 19, I thought.
That sounds right.
So, yeah, I think that's what I'm remembering.
But I thought it was 21 minus the 2 reserved for the drive-through.
Down to,
took
that
the
might be what it is.
19 for-
The 19 is just in my mind for some reason for parking.
And
But
I
you still
think,
got the
Just to give some
employees.
perspective to council, yep.
You'll have the employee issue.
And that's, again, one of the things I did find interesting from when they were here was they weren't very receptive to go to Conewago to get which is, from a business perspective, I know plenty of businesses that enter into parking agreements and lot agreements with other businesses to share space. But they seemed very reluctant to enter some kind of agreement with Conewago to actually have the extra spaces.
I'd say it was more than reluctant.
Yeah, it seemed
was-
basically
it
a
was hard
non-starter.
no.
Yeah.
I remember when I watched it.
But again, the place where we're in kind of a tough spot is that the variance had already been approved. And that's actually why this is so tough right now, is because the variance has already been approved. If we were at the point where the variance hadn't been approved yet,
thank you, Dan.
thank you, yeah.
Ooh, look at that.
Again, that's what makes this so challenging, because if we want to go back and try to redo this, it does have,
That's the original,
Cost
because it's got all
ramifications.
those on the right side.
yep, and you can see how they're extending out that drive-through.
If we get down to brass tacks, like, number 2 says, from our attorney, that we would be highly
Unlikely to succeed, yeah.
succeed in this. So,
Mainly because, again, when you look at it
do you agree with that
overall,
assessment?
yeah, when you look at it overall, the
Agree
footprint,
the two?
the footprint's not really changing much,
Then what's,
yeah.
like, what's the point of spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on a lawsuit that we're probably
That's
going
that's
to
what-
lose?
That's pretty much where I'm at.
It sucks, but it's silly. Like, that would
Yep.
not be prudent financially.
One thing we did ask them to do over and above this particular plan was add a sidewalk cut from Baltimore Street. So,
I
So
suppose
that's-
just another quick
Yeah.
tidbit. There wasn't a local representative, for this particular McDonald's site that could speak to some of the nuances of this particular operation. So they had folks from the site development area of McDonald's, and then the attorney and the engineer, representing the project. So they were not able to speak to the specific number of employees They did offer testimony that, McDonald's policy is that the employees park on the McDonald's lot. However, it seems planning commission members have anecdotal evidence that, that employees do not park there. McDonald's represented that, a number of their employees don't drive. Of course, that raises the question about, well, what if they do start to drive, or what if the next batch of employees, drives? But, as the memo from the city attorney points out, the Board of Appeals did have, discussion on the questions of parking, and, received testimony that they felt, warranted the approval of the variance. So it's kind of
The sticking
tough
point is the fact
to,
that we put the qualifier on it.
Right, yeah.
The sticking point was we put the qualifier on it that they had to talk to Conewago before they, our recommendation was contingent on them talking to Conewago, and that got dropped. And as you can see, yes, we're going to get a gray and brown box.
Yeah, I've seen them.
And when we get to Taco Bell, we'll get a gray and brown box.
Don't have a Taco Bell logo on it, though.
Yes.
It has neon lights, okay?
So Monday night, 24th, I guess it is, we'll have to make that decision on if we're going to approve the concept plan.
Yeah.
And again, I think the only problem will become is that, I know Jim will kind of Jim and Andrew will put you guys in the right direction, but you can't deny it again based on parking, essentially, not without an appeal put into place. At least not for the variance part. If there's another concern, but just keep that in mind. It can't be because we've cut the parking spots. Jim, am I misspeaking there at all? I don't think I am in that regard. But I know you guys will send out you'll get a staff recommendation as well. But ultimately, you guys are your own board, so we're not going to tell you what you can or can't do.
We'll make a decision Monday
Yep.
night. Thanks for your
Sounds
support.
Yep. No problem.
Sorry, man.
Very
The,
good.
Absolutely. There you go, man.
the minutes from the September 29th Planning Commission meeting, where the McDonald's concept was presented, indicate concerns about the number of parking spaces dedicated for uses other than parking for dining patrons were shared. Commission members questioned availability of parking spaces in the adjacent shopping center, and if an easement for shared parking was considered. Should such parking be authorized, the commission suggested that a crosswalk and adequate lighting be considered. While the commission did not make an overall recommendation, they directed staff to report these comments and concerns to the Board of Appeals, and they were shared with the board.
Okay. Do we have any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? I think we covered our end on it. Any additional comments, questions, concerns? Sounds good. Proceeding forward. You guys mind if I skip ahead on one item? We have a representative from Morton Buildings here. I don't want to keep him here all night. If you guys don't mind if I bring that up from new business real quick before we go into fences. Does anybody have any concerns with that? That'd be us going down to number 5 under new business, just so this guy can get out of here and he doesn't have to stay here all night. Hearing no objections from council, I'm going to head directly into it. New business number 5, Morning Building Contract, Memorial Park. Jim, did you want to start us off, or?
Okay. Lorraine and I have discussed this. We've seen some price increases during the life of the site plan process for the Memorial Park expansion, in particular for the multipurpose building that is part of that project. So we have determined that we would like to go ahead and lock in the current pricing to the best that we can. I mean, certainly if there is something dramatic on the horizon months from now, we may not be completely protected, and I will defer to Corey here for a little bit more detail on that, but really we're trying to lock in the pricing before there are any other increases down the road. We're anticipating, we're down to a relatively small number of comments on the site plan, so we're hoping that will be approved in the foreseeable future. within the window of time that this contract would be good for the pricing. So we're really trying to lock in the pricing before we see, we're concerned if we wait until the plan is approved and then come back and visit it then, the world may have changed again in the next few months and the pricing may go up again.
Does getting the, I guess, the grant money committed, does that factor into this as well? Because I know there were concerns with the comments and kind of the delays and everything like that, so I know I don't know if that plays into a factor of locking this in, but I know we
Right.
probably want to get those committed to the project, right?
So if we authorize the expense tonight, we can certainly execute it at a later point, but before next month still. So if there are any concerns Lorena has with regard to the grant, we have the opportunity to not sign it. But in speaking with her about this, this was her recommendation to go ahead and lock in the price before there are more increases. So with that, I concurred with that.
Did you have anything you wanted to add on it?
Yeah, just to go kind of back and forth. I mean, we've kind of gone over this for the last 1.5 to 2 years. This has kind of been in the works. And we had the proposal ready about March of this year. We had all the sub numbers and everything ready to go. But there was some delays with the site and a lot of other things happened that had nothing to do with our portion of it. But we reached back out to our sub-team, everybody that's handling all of the MEPs as far as the project goes, and there were some increases due to that, and then we expressed that to Lorena, and we kind of put a plan together to get a final number, get it locked in, take into consideration any normal increases in cost and just factor that in and get that taken care of. I mean, obviously we can't, if COVID or something like that happens again, I can't account for a shutdown. I don't have a crystal ball. But the goal is to lock in the contract price so that there's no more increases.
Jim, do you know what the increase has been since we, I guess, started this project? I know it's pretty decently significant, but a lot of it wasn't you guys, it was held up from the comments and whatnot.
And in response to those, Lorena did go back and work with Morton to make adjustments to the
we made
building to
adjustments.
reduce the costs a little bit too. So it's not quite apples to apples because
Yeah.
the pricing that we had initially was for a slightly different building with some different finishes and I guess accoutrements. So.
And I know she's been worried about this for a while, as have I, because again, as she had to take away stuff from this project just to make it continue to be viable financially, so.
Right.
Any additional questions, comments by council? Hearing none, I am looking for a motion. You're looking for a motion to approve this contract, right, Jim?
Correct.
Looking for a motion to approve.
Moved.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries. Contract is good to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Corey.
Have a good night.
Too. Hey, thanks, guys.
Sorry to change up the agenda on you guys, just I don't want to keep them for another hour if we can knock that out. So going back up, we're at resolution, ordinances, and agreements. We have introduction. This actually, we're not introducing it right now, right, Jim? We said we were going to hold off on that because we got to get I think we got to get the advertising out, right?
So.
Or was
right,
it, do we have to do the advertising before the adoption? I'm trying to remember for the
So,
zoning ones.
yeah, right, since we weren't able to meet the advertising deadlines with introducing it tonight and then putting it in the newspaper on 2 consecutive weeks with the necessary timeline before the public hearing. So we aren't able to schedule a hearing until January. So I guess to avoid the same thing that we're going to end up with the restricted
Yep.
industrial district, maybe we don't officially introduce this tonight. But this, once I scroll all the way back up to,
That also gives council additional time Again, maybe we look to introduce in this January, because that'll start that 70-day rolling period. But that'll also give council kind of some time to look it over. So we've had some concern, well, I've had some feedback from residents as far as, and you guys are aware, I've shared this with a couple of the council members, regarding some of the setback limits on the front yard equivalent backyards, I guess, the fences for
The
them.
equivalent front yards.
The equivalent front yards. So for some houses, they are put on corner lots, or they're put in ways to where the setback basically pushes your fence all the way, even if it's your backyard for your house, it pushes the fence all the way directly to just basically going off directly off the corner of your house. Some of these residents have had these fences that they had before all this for years now, and they're looking, some of them are going to the point where they're replacing them, because again, some of these houses were built, 20 years ago. So we're overall, this isn't just to address that part, but to address some of the issues we're having with fences. We're looking to do away with some of the permitting process, and this is also on recommendation of Andrew from Planning and Zoning. A lot of the municipalities around us, they don't necessarily permit for each individual fence. The idea would be to keep code and language in there to where if we needed to deal with a site restriction where it's blocking, line of sight from a road, the idea is to try to address nobody doing any crazy heights like 20-foot fences or anything like that. But overall,
To pause real fast, so I see section F is stricken, or struck, whatever the word is, and that's getting rid of the permit.
yep, that's
right?
doing,
Okay.
yep. So
So-
FG,
G becomes F.
yep, I,
You're getting rid of more of the permit stuff, and then just adding,
yep. So it's really just doing away with the
can't
permit
build on
part.
an easement unless you have city permission, written permission from the city.
Yep, and that's basically just them, so one of the things we did want to keep in there was that, that basically, if we needed to go back and enforce this because they did build on an easement, they couldn't come back and say nothing said they couldn't. The code still says they can't. They do still have to abide by the code when they do the fence. And just about any contracting company that they're going to get to come out and do a fence is also going to tell them, they're going to look into what you're allowed to do in the area. The only thing this is really doing is we're not individually proving each of the fences. We're expecting people to maintain their fences for what is written in our code while still allowing us to have the flexibility if we had to go back and say, hey man, this, obviously you can't do this. This is wacky wild. It's causing a safety issue. If we got to get into our easements, we still need to be able to do that. So they can't say, hey, tough luck, my fence is there. We still need to be able to tear down that portion if we got to get through an easement.
Right.
So that's really, the permit process is really what you're seeing being stricken. I guess we could go into, revenue from the permits.
Well,
We
it
were
certainly-
spending more staff time on it than,
It certainly costs us far more than $10 of city staff time to issue a fence permit.
so the other thing would have been to have raised permit fees to match the staff time being spent. But when talking with Andrew and what he's seen kind of around the county and some of the other municipalities, part of his recommendation was, why do the fence permit? Have the stuff in there. Jim, did I cover just about all of it?
Yeah, and one, just from my experience dealing with fences, that when we issue a permit for one, even though in the application, we state that the property owner is responsible for establishing their property boundaries, the fact that we're issuing a permit, if there are boundary disputes, it tends to kind of get us sucked
Involves us
into
in
the argument, even though we say, that the property owner is responsible for establishing their boundaries, and that, obviously we can't issue Mr. Smith a permit to put a fence on Mr. Jones's property, but we still get pulled into neighbor disputes and things like that. And I can sort of see the reasoning behind it, because we're supposed to come out and inspect the fence, but we're not surveyors.
But the depth that we're doing that isn't,
So, right, so we go out, we take a quick look based on visual, cues, and we say, okay, it's a 4-foot high picket fence, it's what they said, it's from the corner of the house around the backyard like they said, okay, you're good. But we don't really have a way to verify that it's really properly located.
and then it makes us
But
vulnerable in
then
those
when we
disputes.
approve it, then people come back and say, well, you approved it like that. So this kind of takes us a little bit out of the process.
And it really, again, it really puts it all on the property owner, that they are doing their proper work and education before they're putting up those fences.
What is, what is there, well, what is the remedy if, say, you've got somebody who's got a fence that is in disrepair, starting to fall over onto somebody else's property, causing issues in that regard?
So actually, that's some of the added language in section G that, that basically just says that any fence
Until such
lawfully
time it
existing.
becomes unsafe or beyond repair in the opinion of the zoning administrator, so I would assume.
Okay, so
that
we
if-
can call,
if
we can
Andrew
call
or
the
whoever
zoning administrator out for,
If something's in disrepair state.
Right, my neighbor's fence is falling down on my property, or something like that, we
Yeah.
can go out and take a look and,
okay, I, if we're removing property, I mean, not that, again, that we're not fence builders, so going out and saying, it looks pretty, it looks like it's a 4-foot picket, it looks like it's a 6-foot privacy, we can't tell if they used crappy lumber and it's gonna fall over or whatever, but, so I just wanted to make sure that people were protected if we did have a situation where a fence was it was just going to crap and starting to fall over into somebody else's yard.
right, so this basically, on the assumption, and again, the permit requirement is a reasonably modern requirement. So in the 90s, there was no permit required. When I moved to the city, there was no fence permit required. And like a lot of folks, I called, was told there wasn't a permit requirement, and I went up and I put a fence around my backyard that, went up to where my neighbors put the fence. And, being a new homeowner, I didn't really realize, city code wasn't online or anything like that. I called, was told I didn't need a permit, so I put a fence up like my neighbors did. Well, I put where do most people put the fences? On the property line. So, now I realize that my property had a 10-foot drainage and utility easement around the perimeter that it was on my plat, but I didn't really think about it. I didn't know the code said you couldn't put it in an easement. But again, technology that we have today wasn't there 35 years ago, so the code wasn't online. You couldn't click on a picture of your house on GIS and see the plat to see, oh, there's an easement. All of that is readily available now at a couple clicks. So I think, part of the reason that a fence permit was instituted was to ensure that people were aware
We're
of the
getting the
regulations.
proper knowledge before
and
they
that-
did it.
Right. And now all that information is,
Right there.
a
There's
click
no
away.
reason not to look it up before you do it.
Yeah, it's on our phones, it couldn't be any easier to get to.
And for us, it's really just removing a permit process that is convoluted for us to go out and enforce when a problem does occur, especially if it's a fence that they had before all this even existed. So again, we're not relinquishing the ability to go and say, hey, man, you can't do that wacky wild fence you're doing. It's a fence that's creating a sightline issue or something that's posing a hazard or safety. We still retain that. It's just basically saying, we're not reviewing all of these to the depth that we really probably should have with this permit process to not be tangled up in other disputes.
So
But it
from
really
our
doesn't change the
constituents' perspective,
requirements of
it's
the
a win
fence.
because they have to do less work because they don't have to do a permit. From our perspective, it's a win because we have less of a headache because we don't have to get involved in disputes regarding the permitting process. It's more cost-effective for us. It keeps our easements.
And it keeps it
And the
simpler,
ol-
really.
Yeah, it simplifies it. It's like, it looks like the only real requirements we have in here are the height requirements of 4 feet and 6 feet, and then something about a retaining wall, and not messing up the stormwater management stuff. Am I getting that about
Yeah.
right?
I mean, the limits for the fences and walls themselves
are
really
already,
aren't
yeah.
changing.
Right.
It's just eliminating the permit requirement and also a requirement that involved when a property changes ownership. That was a little weird. So that's in section, what now would be section G. We're striking that a fence may remain on the premise until such time as any ownership of the premise is sold or otherwise transferred. So that there was kind of a clause that if there was a fence that didn't meet current code,
When you went to
when
replace it, you had
the
to
house
bring it
was
up.
sold, the fence would be brought up to current code, and we've
Creating
never-
obligations on the new
never
homeowner.
done that,
Yeah.
you know, so, and I don't think we're interested in doing that, so we went ahead and struck that.
Oh, the other thing was you can't obstruct a public right of way. Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Again,
the-
that's
the-
really the main concern when we're doing the fences is really the public site distance. Again, making sure nobody is doing something where if this thing falls down, it's going to crush a house or something like that. So, and again, most of our enforcement is complaint driven to begin with. So if anybody still sees something that is obviously like a danger or whatnot, they're going to still use the same mechanism, which is to call us, issue the complaint and whatnot. The only thing that this kind of keeps us out of is, did we issue a permit for a fence that shouldn't have been there to begin with? Again, I think it's simpler overall for even the people who just want to put a fence up or replace a fence. And again, we were spending more staff time than we were making from the permit fee. So the other option in the future really would have been to adjust that permit fee to match the staff time that we were spending. And again, if we really wanted to do it to the point of how we were issuing those permits, like Jim said, you know, we'd have to do we'd have to look at sight lines, we'd have to do a lot more. Again, if we wanted to be more well-rounded in what we were doing, to actually be issuing these permits and saying, hey, we have said that they can build this and it's not going to cause any issues, I do believe you'd have to do more than we're currently doing now without creating a liability for us or getting us into a dispute. Again, this will be moved for introduction in December. And then if we do introduction in December, we do public hearing in January. So we'll do introduction in December. My only ask from council between now and then is, again, if you have any additional comments, questions, concerns, city manager, Andrew, and again, if there's something you think we're missing, we can try to get incorporated before that December meeting.
And we'll develop a new form for an easement agreement that'll be on the city website that folks will be able to fill out and turn in to allow them to put fences in the easements.
And that form is just, again, that nobody can say,
Right.
we don't have access to get through the easement, which, again, those are our easements, so.
And currently, for anybody who hasn't erected a fence in the last 15 or 20 years, part of the fence application, the permit application, is an easement notice that says the city allows homeowners to install fences in certain easements, or may allow them to install them in certain easements. However, the city always retains the right to access the easement area. The fence can't cause any damage to utilities in the easement. If the city ever has to work in the easement area, the property owner is responsible to move the fence. And if that doesn't happen and the city has to remove the fence, we're not liable for it. So basically, it just protects the city, but lets people use that, you know, that 10-foot area around the non-frontage lot lines of their property. And most of what's been built in the last 20 years, there's a very typical note on the plats that says there's a 20-foot drainage and utility easement centered on all non-road frontage lot lines. And a lot of people don't realize that because it's like a note, you know, it's one of umpteen notes on the front page of the plat, and it may not even show on the individual plat that a homeowner has. Again, if you stuck to that and you said you can't put a fence in an easement, now you're going to have all these 20-foot wide strips in between people's backyards that nobody's going to take care of. So, and we've seen that in some communities when that was before we adopted the easement notice. So after we instituted the fence permit, but before we adopted the easement notice and started letting people put fences in there, we saw, you know, the result of not letting people use their full backyard to fence it in. And we had like these kind of grass alleyways in between people's backyards and side yards, and then people weren't mowing it because out of sight, out of mind, and so it just was not the intended effect of that, I think.
Well, at that point too, if it's not in your fenced-in yard, like, I wouldn't even consider that part of my yard.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
And
So
I do.
why mow it? Right.
There's one more thing I want to mention. We do have a stay of enforcement in effect for this, where we're not issuing permits right now until, again, council can say, hey, we don't want to do this, or hey, let's go ahead and do this. And again, if council comes back and says, you know, let's just keep it how it is, we'll go, you know, we'll start issuing the permits again. But I don't want to, again, we don't want to issue any more permits while it's kind of in the air of whether we're even doing them to the full effect of what they should be done. So just be aware of that as well. Again, council could tell me today, hey, well, you guys need to start enforcing it. We'll go ahead and do that. But we do have a stay on that until this is resolved or you guys tell us otherwise. So does anybody have any concerns with that? Again, we're willing to do what you guys want, but again, this kind of fixes one of the issues that we're seeing right now. Hearing none. So again, we're going to see this in December. Again, questions, comments, concerns, point them to Jim and Andrew. Yeah, we'll see it in December then. We had up for adoption ordinance 21-2025, amendment to restricted industrial district. Again, if this is not adopted tonight, it will hit its 70-day window and it will default back to having to go back through the cycle of being introduced again and an additional public hearing happening. Jim, your recommendation is not to adopt tonight because we still have changes that we're looking to do and a discussion that needs to be had. I guess we're going to schedule that for December then? Are you guys getting all that ready
Yeah,
together?
we
Okay.
should be good for that.
So, does anybody have any qualms with holding that off and having more discussion in December?
No, that's fine. Can I ask a quick question on it, though?
Yep.
In permitted uses, number G, you're striking coffee, tea, sandwich shops, and just, looks like you're just broadening the categories of things that can go in the restricted industrial district. The same thing with PQ. Q is private assembly halls instead of social clubs and all the other stuff. So it looks like you're just broadening what can go in there.
So all of the underlined text is all of the stuff that's being added. And that's kind of cut and paste from the commercial districts. So it's adding assembly halls, but it's not adding social clubs and fraternal organizations that were part of Q in other zones.
Got it. Okay.
Jim,
And looking back, we probably could have accepted that change because that's not as clear as it should have been.
Jim, just to check, before we come back on
And
this,
I would like everyone to please look over those uses and keep in mind, the idea of this is to try to enable
accessory uses.
accessory uses to industry that the employees, you know, in that industrial zone can access, you know, easily from their workplace. You know, and, you know, we tried to focus on the service type things, but there certainly is some retail embedded in there as well.
Can we update the, either add intent language to the permitted uses or update the intent under A to where, again, the intent is basically just saying, you know, this district is for light manufacturing processes. I think the intent,
Right, and
and that's what.
services and businesses supportive of.
So you could even add that under the intent
Employees
to,
in the district, something like that.
add that to the intent to B maybe.
Good suggestion, thank
But
you.
just so, because we're already dealing with this in another section right now, and you guys might see it here soon, some of the intent doesn't match some of the categories of businesses that are listed. And again, we're still going back and forth on that, but when we're doing these sections and if we're adding or subtracting stuff, we need to make sure the intent is matching whatever is being added and subtracted, because again, if the intent is really what that part of the code is supposed to speak to, so if it is different than what is being allowed, I'd even go back to argue is, you know, the intent trumps whatever you have listed there. You can't just add arbitrary things that don't make sense for the intent of that code. So Jim, yeah, just keep that in notice
Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
next
got
one.
a note for that. Thank you.
Section 4 is the part that we were talking about with respect to, like, what was this?
Yeah, where it talks about not to exceed 25% of the total lot
That's
area.
basically making the accessory part.
Okay.
Right. And my concern is that, you know, I think our intent was, and again, we kind of cranked this out, you know, last month, but was that, you know, these uses are not supposed to be the principal use, they're supposed to be accessory to the industry.
Right.
You know, so
We want to encourage in industrial and
so I
manufacturing
think
stuff there, but
we
don't
probably
wanna have
want
too much
that
of these other things.
25% reference to be up in section B also, just for a little more clarity. Because I think the way it's looking at it tonight,
Yeah,
I
it's
think with it
a little
being under
off.
C,
Yeah.
somebody could argue that the 25% doesn't apply
Doesn't
if you're
apply because
not
it's not in
under
the
C.
B.
So
I'm seeing
think-
that now too,
Yeah,
that
so
the
I
B
think,
has to be adjusted.
and I think that, right, the language about uses contained in 20522B 14 also,
Because we're wanting the C to apply to the B, right? Actually, yeah,
you know, also count towards the 25% total lot area. So I will get back with the planning director and
yeah,
may
we just
tweak
gotta
that
shuffle
and-
that
and,
just a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd say there's tweaks and such to the language to make it all work, but the general idea was you've got a manufacturing place and maybe you've got a little sandwich shop or something,
Yeah, yeah.
right,
or something,
right.
something like that.
Or-
that,
right.
that so the employee, I mean, like, so you don't have Evapco having to try and come up into downtown and.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's why I'm saying we do have to adjust the intent, because like you said, if I looked at B, my argument would be, well, B doesn't say I have to, these are the permitted uses I have, I don't have to do the 25% conforming. So we do need to adjust, we need to adjust the intent of even what that B/C is. But again, that's what we're going for, is really that accessory use. So we need to make sure we spell that out clearly so nobody can do anything wacky wild in an industrial zone.
Can you help me understand section C, number 4, A, B, and C? Are we saying that daycare centers, hotels, schools, whatever, those are allowed in that area or not? I'm,
Up 25%.
Well, and that's what we're talking about, is actually it's worded incorrectly right now because it's actually giving broad permitted uses rather than limited permitted uses as it's
So-
currently, from what I can tell from
So
how it's currently
those under
written.
number 4 would be the special exception uses, so those would go before the Board of Appeals.
Yeah.
so
And-
if somebody wants to do that, they
so-
go before the, okay, all right.
And the daycare centers, for example, you know, that idea is, since we are talking about an industrial area, you know, that could include, and while we don't have anything like this currently in the city, well, some people might argue, but something that you know, emits, you know, certain odors or works with a lot of hazardous chemicals and things of that nature, you know, we may not, a daycare center, for example, we may not want to put a daycare center right next door to the chemical plant.
Yeah.
So that would be a special exception use where they would need to make the case that locating it next to the chemical plant, you know, is not any more detrimental than locating it next to anything else within the district.
You know, and I'm
You know,
almost
so
gonna.
it's kind of to protect the, you know, the attendees of like a daycare center or a hotel or motel, that we wouldn't want them necessarily to locate next to something that has a 24/7 noisy operation or something that could be within that district.
Would we not want to move restaurants down to that, just for the,
Restaurants was one of the
You know,
primary.
I know,
And I
it's
think
one of-
that was
it
one
is,
of the
it's-
primary.
That's one of the primary
kickoff.
reasons
it
for
is,
this.
it's one of the primary,
And, yeah, and daycare currently, with some parameters, daycare centers can go throughout the city, really. So this actually is making that a special exception use in industrial, rather than by right, because we may not want that to be, you know, right next door to certain industrial type, you know, businesses or operations.
And I guess that's what I'm kind of concerned about with the restaurants part. Do we want restaurants next to, I don't know, and plenty of things that I could think of that I wouldn't want a restaurant next to that I'm about to go eat, but, I mean, that's, you know, you have the choice of whether we need at the restaurant or
Well,
not. I guess you have the-
I was gonna say, at
you have
that
the
point.
choice to go to the hotel.
At that point, yeah, you have a choice to not eat at the restaurant, and then mostly it's for the people that are gonna be there anyway, so if,
They're probably
if they're,
exposed to it
if
on a
they're,
daily
if they're sitting in the chemical bath, they don't mind the restaurant being next to the chemical bath. They just may not want their kid with 6 fingers to be next to the chemical bath.
Yeah, the kids don't have a choice to be there, but we have a choice to eat the sandwich there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, I only bring it up because we're talking about why number 4 is there, and part of it was we don't want X next to Y industrial. I'm fine with it, whatever, you know, you slap some oil on my burger and I'll still eat it, but.
I'm sorry, I'm having a flashback to an ancient Saturday Night Live skit where it was two workers at the chemical plant having lunch in the break room, wearing their hard hats, and there's like powder spilling off their hard hat on their sandwich, and they're like, you know, lunch always tastes so much better here at the plant, and it's just,
Heck yeah.
so, sorry, just had to share that.
I'm gonna have to find that skit. It sounds like a good one.
So we'll take a look at those things, thank you.
Yeah. Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none. Does anybody want to make a motion for adoption? Again, the recommendation is currently not, and to let it lapse. Not seeing anybody making a motion, I'm going to proceed forward. Jim, this is going to die at the 70-day mark, and we'll need to go back through the process.
Noted, thank you.
Yep.
Which sorry, just to pause, that's what you recommended, though, I thought.
It
You
is,
said
just to
let
be
it die. Okay.
formal.
Okay.
It's just to be formal on it. With that, actually, since it is not up for adoption anymore, Jim, am I going to close the public hearing?
Yes.
With that, the public hearing on ordinance 20,
Does Jim have anything further to say on that?
if anybody in the chambers would like to make an additional comment before I close the public comment period, feel free to come on up. I can tell Jim really needs, no,
Chomping
okay.
at the bit to come up and talk about the daycares?
With that, I close the public hearing on ordinance 21-2025, amendment to restricted industrial district. Proceeding forward, Jim, city manager report, go ahead and lead us through it.
Okay. We really didn't spend a lot of time talking about charter and code at the last planning commission meeting or two, as our agenda was pretty full, and a lot of discussion about the concept level site plans that are before us right now.
I've got a report.
Yeah, and I'll let Councilman Mead elaborate on that at his during his time. You know, I have been working with Planning Director Gray on a number of potential. We've been kicking around a number of potential changes to both the zoning chapter and the site plan chapter. On site plans, we're thinking about trying to streamline the process a little bit. Right now, it takes you know, up the standard would basically require 6 appearances before our planning commission, which is substantially more than a lot of other places in Carroll County. So, you know, there's a you know, concept presentation, and then request for concept approval, preliminary plan presentation, again, preliminary plan approval, and then same thing again with final. While the code gives the opportunity for the commission to waive that preliminary step where there's no subdivision of land or new streets being constructed, the commission typically doesn't seem to feel comfortable waiving requirements. But because our preliminary plan and final site plan are essentially the same document, the final site plan simply contains everything the preliminary plan has, plus anything that the planning commission requests in addition. And we typically don't request anything. So we end up just changing the name on the final plan on the Mylars. And I think it presents more of a surety to a prospective developer, you know, what to expect on the timeline, if we can be consistent, and, you know, if there's not a, you know, basically instead of saying, you know, if it doesn't meet these, if it doesn't include these things, you can go right to final. I think we want the code to say, if it doesn't include these things, you will go to final instead of you may not. And I think that provides a little certainty for a developer. And also it streamlines the process for us. So that's one of the things on the site development plan we're kicking around. We do, as we already covered, wanted to kind of delay the restricted industrial district just as we talk a little bit more about solar and battery energy storage systems. So we'll get back to you on that next month with some conclusion on that one way or the other.
And Jim, do you want to tell them what the county's determination was on solar?
So, the county went through a similar, and we really haven't debated it, so I shouldn't say similar debate, but the county went through some debate on this where land use and planning staff was working to incorporate the state mandated approvals and criteria into the county code. That was being done for clarity and also so that county reviewers as well, developers, but primarily county reviewers, in-house staff, are just administering their code, and that they wouldn't have to go and find the details in COMAR whenever a project like that came through. So the state has preempted some local autonomy with these. But if we were to embed the requirements in our own code, then we have one spot that anybody, including Andrew or the Planning Commission, can go and find that information about what a solar project, what criteria it has to meet for approval. So I think it would be helpful from an administrative standpoint to update our code to reflect what the state's requiring of us. I know politically, and what played out at the county was, with the initial vote, the Board of Commissioners rejected the code amendment. It did eventually come back and was approved, so they did ultimately approve adopting what essentially was incorporating the state's requirements into the county code. And I think it makes sense for us to do something similar. So,
Do you know any specifics of
You have to follow their guidelines regardless, right?
the states? Yes,
You have to
we
follow
do,
the guidelines.
yes.
right,
Then
right.
That's
The
the
state
bare-
basically says if a project meets these criterias,
Yeah.
and it does provide for some setback distances and some buffering requirements and things of that nature for solar arrays up to a certain, I think it's there's one point where it talks about arrays over 1 megawatt, but then some of the other criteria use 2 megawatts. So I need a little more clarity on the state
Just
regs.
so it's flowing through my brain correctly, Jim, and I think this is correct, we can't be more restrictive than the base restrictions that the state has imposed, but we can broaden it. We have to follow what they have said is that basically this is the max you can restrict.
Right, this is sort of contrary to what our norm
Yeah,
is.
what our normal
norm
one, which
is
would
we
be-
can be more restrictive than the state, but not
And
less.
that's why it flows
Right.
a little different in the
And
brain,
this
because
is
this
sort
is
of
a
flipping
situation where we're preempted in our zoning. Normally, this isn't the situation. Normally, we can be more restrictive, but the state sets kind of the baseline.
Right.
But this is a unique circumstance where our planning and zoning, our local authority has actually been preempted, and the state is telling this is the max you can restrict. So you can broaden it, but you can't restrict further. So,
Right.
just again, this is contrary to what you will normally see when we're doing stuff.
And I think that, understanding that solar is, not popular with a lot of folks, I wouldn't imagine that we would propose anything being less restrictive than what the state is requiring of us.
I think we're just looking to basically, we've been beaten adopting what the
Administrative
state,
thing is to make it easier for you administratively, like.
Right, I think for clarity, we should embed it into our code.
and that's your.
And whether
it's
it
not,
ends up in the, it may end up being a separate section in the code that just speaks to, solar and battery energy
I think
systems or something.
I think you'd want to do that just because it's preempted.
And,
just so
so I
nobody
think
thinks
it
they
may,
can come
right,
along and-
it may not actually, we have been talking about adding solar to the restricted industrial off and on for a very long time.
Just because
and
it's not
that's-
spoken to currently.
Right, and that seemed to be the district where it would be the, where it would make sense. And, but looking at how the county moved forward with it, I think that makes a lot of sense also, because it is allowed by the state in
It's been
different zones,
decided
so,
for us. I
right.
mean, and
Right.
this isn't to speak to the future, but just from my understanding of some of the things down the pipeline, this won't be the first instance we see of this in the next couple of years. The state's kind of forcing more of a guiding hand of what is allowed and what isn't allowed. And it's definitely been made clear that they will preempt local code and zoning if it means reaching their objective or goal, whatever that may be.
And I've been focusing a little bit more on the solar than the battery energy storage.
Because that's a newer one, the battery
That's
energy
very new.
storage.
But
coming
that is
under
also
it.
spoken to in the state's renewable or
Yeah.
sustainable energy.
They've been actually
program.
focusing on that as far as
And
industry to
And-
try to grow
right.
for them.
But at this point, I'm not sure if it's preempted in multiple zones as the solar is, so that may still be something that we want to speak to specifically within the industrial district, but I would need
To
do
guide
a little
it
bit
basically
more.
along the lines of the solar.
Right. So, so we'll be doing some more work on that in the coming month, and again, it may come back as a separate section rather than being embedded in this restricted industrial piece.
And I think that might be the play, just so nobody in the future just, again, we could spell it out that, based on state. So they adopted it basically per verbiage, correct, the county, or did they?
I believe so.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to
I
watch the
haven't looked
meeting.
at the ordinance either, and honestly, the way the state legislation was, I don't enjoy reading through the bills as they come through. I don't find them particularly clear, so.
Probably on purpose.
Well, they often are worded like, this bill applies to certain this under certain circumstances, and then, it's just,
To say, regardless of my own personal feelings, we should make our stuff match what the state is making us do.
right.
Yeah, that's- I
I
mean,
just
we-
think
we-
it
yeah.
provides clarity.
It does,
Them's the rules, they're the rules.
yeah.
Okay.
But again, just be prepared, this might not be the only instance where that happens.
Ready? Yep, moving on. So Roberts Mill Broad Street reconstruction, we've been talking off and on about the pavement defects on Roberts Mill Road, so we're seeing a little bit of movement on that now. We've provided Special Attorney Gullo with essentially some evidence of communication with the contractor that shows when we reported the pavement defects, when we had some dialogue with them about it. The subcontractor who initially appeared as though they were going to correct the defects, and for those of you who weren't on board then, just to recap, there's some pavement raveling on Roberts Mill Road. It was identified, prior to the closeout of the project. The pavement subcontractor was talking with us about what they could do to fix it. And then when the primary contractor, DeLauder, declared bankruptcy, those conversations stopped. And at that point, MT Laney, the pavement subcontractor, was owed money by DeLauder. They have since been made whole, but part of that, as I understand it, is that they reported that they completed the job to satisfaction. And so now we have to go back and demonstrate, no, they knew it wasn't to satisfaction, so they need to fix it, or we need to get the money to have somebody fix it. So that's where we are. So we've provided that documentation over to the city special counsel. So he's working with the entity that acquired the debt through the bankruptcy. So things are actually moving a little bit now after a long stalemate.
Do we have a timeline to hear back on that? They're just happened.
It's gonna be a long
It
one.
might be a while.
It's basically, letters are going back and forth between the law firms.
Okay.
So, yeah. The stormwater, Riffles Lane, this is going to be the last time it's on the report here. The grading permit was closed on November 4th. We have one yard that we're going to go back out in the spring when the ground is a little softer and roll the backyard to smooth it out. There were some ruts created by vehicles that were going across the yard that unfortunately went outside of the limit of disturbance that the project called for. So just to kind of, smooth things over in more way than one, we're going to go out when the ground is softer and take our roller that we use down in the parks and just roll the lawn and get rid of the ruts the best we can for them. So, but formally the project will be closed. Last thing I've got on the usual project update, the sewer manhole rehab was completed. It went very smoothly. It's got had the smallest punch list that I have ever seen for a project. The contractor had to come back out and replace one nut and bolt. And that was done the week of November 3rd. So just waiting for the final invoicing to come through, and then this may be the last month that you see that on the project list as well. Let's see, we already covered the BZA memo. I do want to just publicly say thank you to Victoria Clausen in the Tannery Barn for the donation of our Christmas tree back there. Makes quite an impression. So, but that was very.
It was interesting
very,
watching them put this together.
Yep. So, but that was very nice of them to to offer that to us.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And let's see. Yep, that's all I've got unless folks have questions.
Actually, I had one, just before you guys get too far into it. I think we had discussed briefly, when we go to look at combining the, different site plan, phases essentially, do we need to address additional public comment? Because if we're dropping one of the phases, you're dropping one of the areas where residents can kind of come voice concerns. I know, again, it's redundant because the two phases, the preliminary and the final, basically accomplish the same thing. But just to keep it on your radar, and I'm not sure if council's interested in weighing in on that, about whether, again, we need to make sure that there's maybe an additional public comment window, or maybe maybe there's a delay, but maybe a further delay from when it's announced to when it can actually happen. So just, again, just to keep it on everybody's radar, when you do subtract that preliminary, you're subtracting an instance where people can come speak to that particular design. So just, and again, you guys can instruct us if you want if you want the city manager to continue maybe looking at that direction, if we need to, so many weeks it has to be advertised or announced when it's going up. But just be aware, if you drop that preliminary, you are dropping an extra meeting that people do have a chance to come out for the project. And it's not to say that this isn't a good thing, it does streamline it faster. Just be aware you're reducing an instance where people can come voice their concerns on that particular issue. So just keep it in your mind. Again, if you guys do have suggestions or maybe something you'd like to see as they're going through and updating it, shoot out to Andrew, shoot out to Jim. Yeah, and we'll discuss it.
So say, outside of some recent, I'd say there is relatively little comment that is said at our meetings.
I would agree that is the norm. And the planning commission meetings, Chairman Parker typically opens the floor to comments and questions with regard to each project as we move through the agenda. So it's structured a little bit differently than our meetings here with council. But certainly, yeah, we'll take that under advisement. And
Yep. Again, I just went on council's radar, so it didn't happen, and then someone says we reduced an instance where people can come say something. So just so you guys are aware, it does reduce one instance. It does simplify it, streamline it, but just be aware, it does reduce one time where they can come and speak even more openly on it. And like, again, we don't receive many comments on most of the plans, but, we're going to get to a point where there's going to be another hot topic, a Taco Bell or something. People are going to ask, why was the process reduced? So just be aware of that.
sure, whenever there's an unpopular
Yep.
project that's
And-
likely to.
And again, this isn't going to affect the Taco Bell process because they have to continue through the process that's already been set, correct, Jim? Just, I
Yeah,
want to make sure I'm
I don't
understanding that
think that,
correctly.
yeah.
So, again, just to keep it on your guys' radar, so nobody could say,
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't bring it up.
And just along those lines, we could consider also incorporating a public comment period on the planning commission agendas, public comment on any ongoing projects or something
Yeah,
along
and
those
that's-
lines. That,
yeah.
We
And,
could,
and I mean, they do have the listed ones out there and
yes,
whatnot, but,
yeah.
again, maybe to be more specific so people don't feel that we took away a bigger part of it, because that's my only worry, especially if, again, another controversial project comes up.
We can work out perhaps an additional posting or something like that. I would shy away from
Yeah, no new,
like
no
an actual like
requirement.
hearing
Yeah.
advertisement in a newspaper.
I think
just
it'd be-
because of the expense.
Yeah,
but
I think it'd be more of an additional posting, or, again, maybe it has to go out in our digital newsletter or whatever. We can discuss more of that as we're going through it.
I would have slightly less worry about it, just because in general, it's not a this month, this month, this month. There's usually time in between all of
Yes.
these where somebody can look at the videotaped, I'm old, evidence and say, oh, I don't particularly like what's going on with Taco Bell, but they're not presenting this weekend or this week, but I'm gonna come out anyway and let the planning commission know exactly what I think.
Is there a list of ongoing projects before the planning commission
Yeah,
anymore?
it's,
Every
it's on
every
the
agenda.
list for the agenda. But that's kind of what I was gonna, is again, maybe if we put it more in bold as to what the, again, the ones who are actually, I should say, still actively presenting and whatnot.
yeah.
I'm trying to think
And
of the
we
best.
do break it out for, projects in
That, yeah.
review, construction phase projects, yeah.
And that's what, it is there. My only concern is, again, people normally show up when we do the preliminary or the concept or the final. Those are
When
the
it's
big-
posted,
Those are the big, yeah, those are the big
those are when we
target.
post it.
Yeah, those are the big target ones that people start showing out for. So, again, we'll talk more about it as we get to it. Okay, yeah, that was it. Oh, my bad, yeah, I'm still
I
up.
was gonna say, yeah, you're in charge, dude.
Do you have any thoughts on any of that, Mr. Parker?
Yeah, on the projects that are up.
Any comments at the end?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I'm
and
very happy that we do have.
well, that's what, again, you guys see the hot ticket stuff. Again, that's my biggest thing is, when we normally see those big crowds is really those concept, the site, or the preliminary and the final. And that's just because, again, they do have to be more posted than the other stuff. But everybody does have an opportunity to come out and keep speaking to it. I just don't want anybody to feel that nobody's trying to pull a fast one or anything like that. So continuing forward, department reports. Jim, do you have anything, or actually any questions, comments, concerns for council on the city manager report? Hearing none, proceeding to the department reports. Jim, did you have anything
I'll
in
be happy
particular to
to
highlight?
field any questions if folks have them.
Questions, comments, concerns from council on the department reports? Hearing none, I am proceeding forward. Up next, we have the old business, approval of revisions to general specifications for street and stormwater management facilities construction. Do you have an update on this or anything you wanted to say?
We don't, we just didn't want it to disappear from the agenda.
Yeah.
So if anybody has comments for me to take back to the engineer or DPW, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, we're just kind of waiting on some finalization with CDM, and we still want to have a little more, if we have a calm moment with the planning commission, a little more conversation about street width with them.
Yep, sounds good. I'm proceeding forward. I did want to make one highlight in the economic development report, since we don't, nobody's filling that role liaison-wise, and I'll make a comment at the end as well. They did hold their first ad hoc advisory board meeting, so they have a group of members. They did meet and they held a virtual meeting. So they're still trying to get the structure in place, and when that's a little bit more refined, we'll present that to council to make sure it's going in the right direction. I already told Jim there is a few things that have to be kind of fixed that are contrary to what our charter currently allows. But we'll get that done, and I think you guys should see that framework probably next month. Proceeding forward, though, New business, up first, we got the monthly financial report. Questions, comments, concerns from council? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion in regards to it.
Motion to approve.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have accounts payables. Any questions, comments, concerns from council regarding that? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion in regards to it.
To approve.
Looking for a second. Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have approval of special event permit, Alyssa Richards Memorial Car Show, October 3rd, 2026. Just a quick comment, this is pretty standard. It's an annual event. Additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, looking for a motion in regards to it.
Approve.
Looking for a second. Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. What time is it?
9 o'clock.
9.
So, parking meters. So one of the,
Let's start this one at 9 o'clock.
I know, it starts at 9, okay. How can we make this not a 2-hour? So we'll start first with the holidays. So normally when the holidays roll around, we do free parking. Jim, did we do free parking throughout the week last time and weekend?
So there's a standing resolution
Yep.
that parking between Black Friday and New Year's is free on the weekends. The resolution actually says Saturdays and Sundays, but we don't enforce meters on Sundays anyhow.
Anyways, yep.
So basically, it's Saturdays. Last year, council wanted to
consensed
do,
to them.
and I think, and this may have happened the year before as well.
It
but,
did,
It was kind of a last-minute thing that council wanted to provide free parking all week, for that period. And so we put, little laminated signs on all the parking meters, but just wanted to see if you wanted to do anything beyond the standard, which is the free Saturday parking between now and New Year's.
I think last year, Councilmember McCarron, you advocated for the week, right?
Yeah, I still advocate for the week. If we do this on weekends, it's gonna be extremely confusing, first
Yeah,
of all.
yeah.
And it'll be completely ineffective, so we might as well not do it. If you just can't say that Merry Christmas, parking's free in Taneytown between Black Friday and New Year's Day or whatever you want to say it, then you might as well not do it. And it's something that our surrounding towns do. So I think it's the spirit of the season to hate parking meters anyway.
I hate parking.
I was gonna say,
I
if
hate
you won't
parking
let me
meters,
dress
too.
up in a Santa outfit with a Sawzall, then this is the next best opportunity.
You're
next
definitely
best
you're definitely in
alternative.
good company when it comes to comes to not liking parking meters. So I'm in.
But it's just not, it just would be very confusing to have somebody worry about, well, is Friday a free day or is Friday a pay day? Here I am on Sunday, I don't know whether I ought to go in and get a pizza or not. I don't want to put the money in the meter.
So, and I agree with Councilmember McCarron and the idea of making it free for the week. There's also something we want, and we've done it the past 2 years, and really we haven't seen too many issues
Everybody
or.
was
Yeah.
well received. I mean, everybody complimented us on our decision to do that.
Can I just go ahead and make a motion that we do that?
So I think we'll probably just consensus unless we want to. Well, I don't have a resolution to
Okay.
adjust right now, but we'll do it by consensus. There is one thing I want to say is that this does give us. It's kind of a practice run because there is going to be a time where this is going to be brought up of what the future of parking meters in Taneytown looks like. So we'll let it go through the holidays. We'll kind of gather the feedback on if we had a number of calls or complaints or issues. And then in January, it's going to be added to the agenda again to talk about what the future of parking meters looks like. Does that sound good with everybody? So I'm going to look for consensus going down.
Fine.
So free parking, even through the week. And then again, make sure we're, to the chief back there, just make sure we're making a list of any of the complaints we're receiving, or if we're having any issues, both city manager and the chief, and make sure when we come in January that those are presented, any of the issues that we had. So just,
Can I ask a question on this?
We're the only Grinch town.
I say we just let Harry go down
yep,
the line.
Councilmember,
So I'm fairly confident that everyone here is probably in favor of getting rid of parking meters, which I think is ultimately what we're going to be talking about in January, right? Can we, instead of just make it a week, just say effective on Black Friday, there's,
so this will go all the way to Christmas, right, Jim?
New Year's.
All the way to New Year's. So this will be the full, from here all the way to the,
You could start it on the small business Saturday if you wanted to.
I think when does it start? I thought it started.
I like that.
I thought it started small for things.
Well, Black Friday is the day before
Yeah.
Small Business Saturday.
Yeah, so it does start.
I would call people's attention to the fact that we have a small business Saturday. It's the only reason
That's clever.
that's only a couple days.
I was gonna say,
So it does-
yeah,
it does
'cause
start for that.
I haven't heard of any downtown businesses that are doing small business Saturday. Is that going?
Yeah, yep, it is going. There's
Okay. I mean,
I mean, can we do that? Like,
So
just
it- so-
say start it,
it already starts. It
Yeah.
starts on Black Friday going. So
Day
small
before,
business,
right.
small business Saturday is after Black Friday.
okay?
So it will already,
So it's already in effect.
yep. So,
Okay, and
yes,
this would go through the new year.
yep, goes to the new year.
I think
And that's
the main
that's why I
point
was saying-
Can we
to
just
the
like
main point
suspend
was
it
to
until we get to talk
Nick
about it?
wants to
and-
test it.
Yeah, like, why let it go back into effect at all in January if we're gonna talk about it in January? And like, I'm
Nick wants
fairly confident that
data.
we're gonna say this is done. So like, why not just soft launch this now?
My only concern would be maybe advertising a little bit more, even in the agenda saying the removal or suspension of parking
At least
meters.
people
So the people, there is small businesses that have expressed their disagreement with the removal of parking meters, and I don't want them to think that we just suspended it. Because, I mean, our agenda does say parking meters.
Well, so like, we haven't officially done it, so like, we're giving them 2 months to come in and, bend our ear about how stupid of an idea that is, which is fine, like, this is giving them the opportunity to do it, but it's also moving in that direction, and then we can kind of see what chaos it brings,
Wants
If you
data.
wanted to accelerate
Oh, yeah,
things,
no,
you
I do,
could-
like, I want to know what happens.
You could put it on, you could put discussion for, termination of metered parking or something like that, on the December agenda to call it to everyone's attention while the stay of enforcement, so to speak, through the holidays is ongoing.
I'm
And
fine.
say,
That works.
we're contemplating doing this, January 1.
So my only ask would be from now till January, if you do have a replacement that you'd like to see for what the meters try to accomplish, think on that. Or if you just want to do away with the system entirely, think on that as well. I'll have, Mackenzie's already working on this. She's been working on basically getting alternatives to what parking meters are. We just didn't have it ready for this meeting tonight. So the idea was to present that in December, but I'm fine with starting it now, test run it till January, put it on the agenda for December for the suspension and removal. And we'll just do a stay of enforcement on the meters.
say,
But let me get a consensus on that before we, that sounds where everybody's going. Again, we'll start setting that up. Mackenzie will start getting the alternatives out to you guys. We'll get them out before the end of the month, some of the general alternatives, so you guys can think on that in December. Because I do have to warn you, the December meeting is 2 weeks from now.
yeah, I was gonna. I
Oh,
was
yeah,
gonna-
it
it's
would
not
be.
a lot of time.
Just be aware of that.
it's- I
It
was
comes-
gonna- that's
it
what I was
comes-
about
it
to
comes
bring
very-
up, is
it
the
comes
fact
very quick.
December is 2 weeks from now,
Yes.
so.
So
And
just be aware of that.
Something I'll ask council to consider it also is, if the decision is to remove the parking meters, is there just essentially parking that's just governed by the other parking limitations in the code?
Or do you want to put
are
2-hour
are
signs, 4-hour
Do you want to
signs?
have a time limit in the downtown district you know, or a certain, so if you take away the meters and we don't
Do you
have
still want to
that-
achieve turnover is the question essentially.
Right. Do we just want to make it parking
mean,
just like
obviously,
any
we
place
don't-
else in the city, or do you want to impose some sort of time limit? So those are things that I think we do want to have some conversation about before a final decision is made.
Yep. And again, I think we're heading towards just a suspension to test it out. You guys kind of get the results. Mackenzie's going to reach out with this stuff. And again, keep that under consideration. That's kind of what I was going to, as well as that, you know, think of what you want the alternative to be, or even if you, I mean, you don't have to have an alternative, but, you know, think about it. Do you still want to promote turnover through some kind of mechanism of 2-hour parking, 2-hour free parking, signs or whatever? You can still do other things. It doesn't necessarily have to be just parking meters.
Will the city, like, will you guys provide us with a list of options in case we want to
That's-
Yeah,
consider
and
this?
that's what
that's what-
Mackenzie's
okay,
working on it right
that's what I
now.
thought. I just wanna
That's
make
why I
sure.
didn't want to get to talk about the removal just yet, because we are trying to gather that information right now.
Yeah.
So,
If, right, a time limit approach,
I was trying to remember what
is-
Sykesville does.
yeah,
Sykesville has
Sykesville
the
does.
signs.
Oh.
they have a
A lot
time,
of
a
places
2-hour,
say-
I think,
Yeah,
window.
a lot of smaller towns have moved to the signs rather than the actual parking meters.
Yeah.
Or say you
I
can't
just
park
couldn't
here
remember
from
what
9
they
to
said.
5, you know.
So I'm going to look for a
Obviously,
consensus.
don't want
I'm
a
going to
car
look
sitting there 24 hours. You know?
I'm going to look for a consensus on the idea that we are or basically a stay of enforcement on the actual parking meters until the January meeting. So we're going to start that now then, technically. Is that what council's looking for?
That's what I was suggesting,
Okay,
yeah.
so we'll start, a suspension would start now all the way to the January meeting. Staff will basically gather results if we're getting feedback, complaints, concerns. Same thing, does anybody oppose me? If I get somebody messaging me, are you guys fine with me sending them y'all's email, hey, you know, if you want to make sure council gets your concerns in email?
Yep, of
Or
course.
I just don't want anybody to feel like I'm redirecting people. But, you know, they need to voice their concerns to you guys as well. So we'll do that. Mackenzie's getting the list, and again, we've been working on that for a little now. There's a couple alternatives that have been floated, but, you know, the problem is expenses that come with alternatives and replacements.
And as far as a time limit, and, you know, I think the question with, if we were to do a 2-hour time limit, is the enforceability
Yep,
of that. Like, how do
enforceability.
we, you know, how do we monitor that? How do we enforce that? Because we know if we post it and somebody sees a car parked out there for 3 hours, it's very likely we'll get a complaint. So we need to, you know, work through, if you do opt to pursue a
Yep.
time
How does
limit,
council want us to
we need to
enforce
really
it?
explore enforcement of it. So that would be our challenge. And there certainly are technological solutions, but those come with a cost, of course.
And that's kind of our ask on the administrative side is, you know, just think of, if you do want the signs, like Jim said, how do we actually enforce that? Because I don't want to have to go back to people of playing the game of, well, we don't know if they're there for 2 hours or not there for 2 hours. We have that problem elsewhere right now.
So, right, so easy is we keep the meters,
Or
we
don't
get
keep
rid
the
of the
meters, yeah.
meters, and then
Those are
you
the-
park
yeah.
like any place else in the city. Not quite as easy is we keep the meters, we incorporate an app, so you don't have to have a quarter in your pocket, because that's another one of our frequent complaints is people say, I don't carry cash anymore. I want to be able to swipe a card or, you know, put my
And my
you know,
QR code to get your
right,
thing.
right, or go to Park Mobile or one of the many other apps.
But there's like full replacements like laser systems you can do, but that's going to be a cost.
Right.
But I will say, you know, one of the things when me and Jim have talked, and I think I've told some of you guys this before, is that for us, we're not looking to get revenue from the parking meters. You know, for us at the city, turnover is the only goal that we're even concerned about. So it's up to you guys whether you want to continue that philosophy or that turnover is what we're looking for. So again, think on that between now and December. I'm looking for consensus on suspension of parking meters until January. And I think Jim already knows the marching orders for staff on what to get to you guys.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Motion.
we're doing consensus for it.
I think it's
He's
great.
on board.
He's on board.
Sounds
Motion, consensus, let's rock and roll.
I'm on board.
He's ready to
move
move
that
forward.
Consensus be approved.
That's fair. Jim, anything you need else in regards to that, or a point of clarification or anything?
I think we're good.
Sounds good. Well, that was actually, I mean, the bigger discussions will be later, but, we already did Morton Building, 180-day update. So just to update you guys, we have the signs right now. Need you guys to really look at, I think I handed out one to everybody. So these are some examples of different signs in different communities. McKinsey is working on some of the kind of sketch ideas of what a sign for Taneytown would look like. Basically, look through here, and one of the preferred methods would be you kind of draw up your comments, or again, if you can scan it online and drop your comments online, that's fine too. But get them back to us on the admin side so we can kind of see what council's looking for in these welcome to Taneytown signs. We can go in, I think we'll go into further talks in December about whether they should be electronic, whether they should be stationary like they are in these pictures. Just basically use this as an example of what you think you're looking for, mark it up, get it back to us on the admin side so we can start thinking of trying to get to what council's looking for. Just by a show of hands, or consensus, I guess, is council more geared towards electronic billboard signs as opposed to the stationary signs here? And I know you've asked about the cost, and we can get the cost back to you on that.
I'd be looking at a combination, and especially for now, to get the sign up, I would say stationary sign right now, but plan that whatever we do can be adapted with some form of an LED board underneath it or around it or something like that.
Yeah, my preference is definitely towards like LED, something, because then you can modify it pretty easily.
Yeah, because I just, in my own experience, when I do go out the other side of town, that's when I'll see things on the board and go, oh yeah.
Right.
And but it's got the static part of it and it's got the LED part of it. Now I think we should go a little.
Yeah, a little bigger.
I think we should go a
probably.
little bigger and cooler looking than just the lighted up sign, lighted up static sign.
Yeah, because I will say feedback from residents, while they appreciate that sign, hasn't been what they're really looking for.
Yeah.
And I think it's mainly due to size, and a lot of smaller communities, they have some kind of static, more welcoming, charming sign rather than just.
I mean, I'm partial to like stonework in that kind of signage. So, like, if you can almost have like a, not monument, but something like it that like works into the
Yeah,
the
we've almost
signage.
talked about like this middle one if you're looking at it. Again, you keep some of the top rows, but then the bottom section you make into maybe an LED sign. So you get both, but just remember, the only thing is going to be cost. So
Yep.
I'm going to have McKinsey get to you guys some of the different examples of the LED signs, what might be able to be incorporated into these, and what the cost on that looks like. Well, so again, what we're looking at right now is the cost of the existing frame to upgrade it is $65,000. I'm going to tell you, the fire department spent a lot when they we got, Jim, do you remember, do you know the cost off the top of your head? Right around 40. So that's for their sign over there. Yeah, it was around 40. So just keep that under consideration
Sorry, you said,
Dan's saying
Dan, you said it's 65K-ish?
to upgrade our sign that way.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
So just be aware of that, everybody, that there is a cost associated with it. But I'll have McKinsey get a couple, in addition to what we have here, get a couple of the LED ones, send out to you guys. My only ask is, again, try to provide some feedback. I know the December one's 2 weeks, so I'll try to have her get it out to you by Wednesday of next week. But try to get whatever feedback you can so we know what we should have for you guys at that next council meeting. Any additional comments, questions, concerns on the signs, or actually the 180? I got some other stuff to go into. Newsletter is basically approaching its final, some of its final design. McKinsey's been tasked with working on that. We're looking to try to get it to a printer this Friday, so the November one's going to be late, but it will basically be the first iteration. Everybody can see what it looks like. The idea is to do 3 prints, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, and then after that, go digital. So people have 3 months to read the disclaimer on it that says, hey, this is swapping to digital. If you'd still like a printed copy, please contact City Hall. And they'd be added to a list for the printed copy. Again, the reasoning behind that is it's a pretty expensive process to send these out. So it will save you're going to save over $10,000 swapping to digital for it most of the year.
The swap to digital, is that basically an email blast?
Yep, email, Facebook blast, that's the idea.
Yep.
So just be aware of that, the November one's hopefully going out here. You'll probably see it. Really depends what Thanksgiving going on when that goes out, but it's going to have December dates on it as well. It's going to have stuff talked about council meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So just be aware of that. Trying to think of, there was another one, there's an important one. Some of this stuff is delayed because I'm going to tell you, we've been catching up on the staff part, and we're just about there. I mean, he's caught up to where Jim can take leave again.
I
So-
took a lunch break today.
Exactly.
Nice.
So I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of stress off of staff right now. We're back up to full manning. We're actually starting to work on the projects that have kind of been in the backlog with the queue. So you're going to see a lot more progress happening on those ones. There's one, and I've talked with some people before, and I just want to make sure it's on everybody's radar for December. City manager, he was filling 3 roles, obviously cured a lot of comp time. Even Jim's taking, 2 to 3 days off as he can a week while we're still trying to get the mission completed. But he is going to have a lot of use or lose time. So the question to council is whether they'd let him roll some of those hours over. The only concern with that is it's just going to exacerbate the continuous problem that we have, or whether the council will entertain buying it back, essentially. And Jim, we also have 2 other employees at the police station that are also in a similar situation. Officer Klezak, when he came on, he was doing patrol work. Again, everybody else already had their leave scheduled, so he hasn't been able to really use what he's got. Next would be, Longo. Yeah, Officer Longo. He has, since he was in the academy, he couldn't use his leave either, and he also doesn't have much opportunity right now while he's on
Field training.
field training. So just be aware we have 3 employees right now that are really. The question is whether council will entertain buying those hours back, or they will lose them. And again, that does hurt morale for these people who are doing the job. So I'm not going to ask for a decision tonight. My ask is you guys think about this from now till December. And Jim is using as much leave as he can. Just be aware, we are trying to.
Expect that auto response.
I've seen them
You'll-
actually, yeah.
You'll be seeing it a lot
Man.
between now and the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that was
Is there any way that we can ask for, like, what are their
numbers behind it?
opinions? Well, like, let's say Jim wanted to roll it over instead of get paid out, or, I'm sorry, I don't remember the other 2 people's names you said, like,
Yeah.
like, would we be able to consider doing it the way that they'd prefer? Like, if I want to roll
Yeah,
it over.
I don't think that's an issue. The only problem is the exacerbation of giving them leave that they already can't use, rolling it over to the next year, and now they have to use all that leave and their leave that they're accruing the next year.
Sure.
So just my only ask is if they're like, there's no way I can use this much leave, will you guys please buy it back? Please keep that in the back of your minds as we head into December, because we'll have a clearer picture at the December meeting what that looks like. So
And I would defer to the police department on how they would want to
Yeah, that's
approach it.
that's
how they-
also kind of what I'm looking for.
Because as Demra pointed out, it can be challenging for the department to manage the holiday schedules and maintain 24/7 coverage and so on as it is. So, right, so adding those additional hours and the police, the circumstance for the police officers is holiday leave. So that may present more scheduling challenges if we throw that many more hours into next year's mix. But we could certainly have a recommendation from the chief for next meeting.
Another update, just because I've had the question come in quite a bit. Speed camera. The number one thing about the speed camera is the power company has not hooked it up yet. So just be aware of that. It is.
Not supposed to hook it up this week. I thought they were supposed to hook it up this week.
So
There was an issue.
they found some issues when they went out there with the installation. So to be determined when it comes on. But again, there will be a 30-day warning period. It'll be posted out. But if anybody asks you, it's still in the process, and I do have quite a bit of asks of why hasn't it been hooked up yet, et cetera. So it's mainly power company just got around to inspecting it, and they shot back, well, we need something changed. And they are working, I'd say, with us well to be accommodating for what that change looks like, so.
I think now that they're working with an individual at the power
Yeah.
company, I think things will move along more quickly.
And that's what it just got actually assigned to somebody maybe 2 weeks ago, so. That's the main holdup there.
Darn.
We have the attorney position reposted out, because it did expire, and then we had to repost out, so that's posted out again. I mean, are we, Jim, just, sorry, there you go.
Have we approached anybody?
I've made some inquiries into some of the different ones that our surrounding municipalities use. There is one conflict with the one, I think I've talked with everybody on that. There's one out of Westminster. I think it's going to come down to how much council wants to pay for the legal representation. Jim, are we backed up right now legal-wise? I'm trying to,
We haven't been sending nearly as much things towards
The
Special
attorney,
Counsel
yeah.
Gullo as we would have.
In the previous,
Where he, you know, certainly not the way it was in years past.
yeah.
But with the, you know, removing the requirement for legal review for every ordinance and resolution and council packets and such, you know, that's certainly lightened the load on Mr. Gullo. So there are a couple things still outstanding that are kind of long-running, you know, but not particularly high-priority items.
If we're not being like
But-
caught up on
Right,
something
but
right now, right?
we're in decent shape. You know, recordation of some things has lagged a little bit, but Claire's been working with Jay on a plan to get things recorded. So I think we're doing okay with Mr. Gullo, you know, engaged the way he is right now. We're staying afloat.
And I just wanted to address that so nobody thinks we're like crumbling at the legal foundation. From my understanding, is
He's there when we need
we're
him.
still, yeah, things are still moving. And again, you saw the comments we had back from the other board. So again, we're still looking. There's only so many, there's only so many municipal attorneys.
There aren't that many in the state, yeah.
So again, we'll keep looking, and I know one thing different that we have right now is we do actually, before MML didn't have their board was down at the time of our last posting for the city attorney, which if you're looking for a municipal who's hiring, you know, MML is a pretty good place to go. So they do have that back up and running, so our new posting is on the MML search. So hopefully that'll kind of drum up some interest in the area. Something I'm forgetting? Oh, I'll get to that at a different point. Any questions, comments, concerns about, again, most of it's backed up just from staffing. McKinsey on board, we're actually able to move more of that because it was mainly who's going to do what. You know, Jim was filling in planning and zoning, so it was either take him away from that. And again, Andrew's killing it, so I will say that's why Jim can take leave now. So it's hard because we are trying to get much more accomplished, and I am trying to still allow Jim to get out of the office. So it really comes down to me and him scheduling time together to get XYZ moved forward, and some of it is being pushed over to McKinsey to move forward, like the newsletter, the signs. Again, Main Street
intended
framework is
purpose.
close, so we are moving it as we can. But now that we have the staffing, it is moving faster than it was previously. So, any additional comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, proceeding forward. Construction. Oh man, I forgot about this one. Okay, construction, oversized vehicles on residential roads. I guess the question for us on the staff level is, where does council want to go with this? Jim, do you want to throw out some of the ideas that we've kind of tossed around?
So, for the commercial vehicles, historically, I think we've been focused on trying to catch them in transit in order to be able to enforce the weight restriction on most city streets. And I think we do have some opportunity to issue citations on parked vehicles, which we really haven't focused on previously. We do need to do a little bit more homework on the fine structure and maybe making that a little bit stronger so that it doesn't. We have received feedback in the past that when we have ticketed, say, a dump truck that drives down a weight-restricted street and parks there, that for that firm that owns the dump truck, it's easier for them to pay the fine if one of their drivers gets a ticket once in a while than it is for them to procure parking for their fleet of dump trucks. So that's cost of doing business for them and didn't really help us, with it. And of course, we can't have an officer sitting on, a certain street for an hour at a time, hoping that this vehicle drives by. So I think we do have a little bit of opportunity through the parking code, where there are some restrictions on commercial and certain size vehicles. The zoning code speaks to commercial vehicles in residential districts, but it's not particularly effective because of the process for zoning violations, where we give the property owner notice and then they have 10 days to resolve the issue, and then we would start issuing fines. So, in the case of a vehicle, they just move it temporarily, and then the case gets closed because you go out, you inspect, and it's gone, and then they can bring it back. So that's not our best avenue. That's more of an educational approach where we could send a letter saying, hey, this is in violation, don't do it, and hope for the best. But again, as far as like penalty, there's not a lot we can do there. So I think approaching it by, looking at the parking aspect of it and maybe increasing the penalties for that may produce a different result. As far as the trailers that we get complaints about, which are some of the, some are camping trailers, some are utility trailers or trailers for large equipment, construction type equipment. I think parking code may be our best path forward. The chief has reached out to some other municipalities, and so far those we've heard back from have slightly different challenges with the commercial vehicles than we do. But I think parking, focusing on the parking aspect of it, at least where they're on city streets, is probably our best shot. We did talk about possibly, instead of doing impound of vehicles, because we really don't have a lot of storage space, that maybe we investigate something like putting a boot on, to disable a vehicle. And that might be effective for some vehicles, but then others that sit for long periods anyhow, it could just sit there with a boot on it now. So we're still talking things through, but I think that a little more investigation on the parking code and maybe some small tweaks there. I don't think it's really, there are some sections in the code that I think can be revised a little bit to make them more clear or a little bit firmer. I don't think we have to do anything dramatic, but I think it's really just going to take more of a focus on enforcement.
And that's what, talking at the admin level, it's mainly going to be changing up our tactic as far as the enforcement goes. One other thing is, and we talked about this briefly, was when we go to do the fee schedule, when we go to update that or talk about it, we'd like to roll in the impoundment fee and potentially either have it to where, when you first get impounded, you have a flat fee that you have to pay within X amount of time. And then after that, you start incurring a reoccurring cost. Because right now it is Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is a flat fee. Once you get impounded, it just sits there. You come get it whenever you want, and you pay the flat fee. That doesn't incentivize, it doesn't incentivize people to get it. And again, Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Miller has been working. I've talked with her in regards to some of the things that she's talked about with the police department as far as what might be effective, and actually, again, some kind of a reoccurring fee, but to where it isn't automatically applying day one you're impounded, because we don't want people to have a hardship getting their stuff out of the impoundment, but we also can't be the storage lot. So in another talk has been whether we base that off of the size of the vehicle, because does it make sense to have a same fee for a vehicle that is a car versus let's say we have to tow an RV, does it make sense that they pay the same fee, even based on the storage lot usage?
I think you would have to look at the cost of the tow.
Well, no, yeah, the cost of the tow is always going to be, they're always going to pay cost of tow. The biggest thing really is the space, because at this point, we're almost having to contract out additional space at other places to tow stuff too, because people just aren't picking their stuff up. And there's very stringent guidelines of when we can actually auction off stuff, when we can do away with it, and that's something you have to be a little bit more cautious with.
You're basically talking about going to like a rent per square footage type model.
Yeah, if we have to impound it, you're basically paying almost rent for the square footage of it.
We have had some conversations about that, a standard parking space is like 180 square feet so that's like a 9 by 20 space. And, right, so if something takes up twice that amount, you would pay twice you make it proportionate to the amount of space being taken up. Yeah. And just to clarify a little bit of what I was saying earlier, I don't think we've really focused on this, and it may be an opportunity for us, and that is in 19312. We've talked about, when we've had these conversations in the past, we've said, well, all our streets are posted for, or most of our streets are posted for no vehicles over 13,000 pounds can traverse our streets unless they're making a delivery or, school buses in transit or something that, there's a valid reason for them to be there and not just convenience for the operator. And our section 19312, maximum time for continuous parking, does have a section that I don't think we've ever really focused much on, and that is no vehicle having a combined gross vehicle weight in excess of 13,000 pounds, including but not limited to any commercial truck, bus, tractor, trailer, or semi-trailer, and no house trailer or towed vehicle, regardless of its weight, shall be permitted to park or stand longer than 1 continuous hour on any street within the city. So I think while we've been focused on trying to catch somebody driving, I do think we have some opportunity. It would be a different infraction than, it wouldn't be a state citation, it would be a parking infraction. So a little bit different approach, but if we made the penalty for that a little stiffer, that might prove more effective.
Yeah, because the situation that I'm getting the complaints on and would be more served by the parking as opposed to the traversing. Just because up on that end of Roberts Mill, you get trucks with trailers with backhoes on them, you get fifth wheels enough to hold a 10-person family, parking for extended periods of time, a couple of days. And I showed pictures to some of the people here in the background when it was really full on that, when we had a couple of really big vehicles on that side, and there was barely room for 2 cars to go by, except for the fact that there was kids who used that side of Roberts Mill that doesn't have the sidewalk because the sidewalk's overgrown on the other side. So basically we had to play 1-lane bridge, and I had a car coming at me. I let him through, and then I went through. So it's really, especially in that area, it's a parking thing. And so if we can tighten up, or whatever we need to do to tighten up the parking, or figure out a fee structure that works, something like that, I think that's going to be.
This is a problem that's been going on, I guess, since they've been motor vehicles, but you've got to be forceful in enforcing the ordinances that are on the books, and then if they're not working, if people would rather pay the fine than find another parking place, increase the fines.
Can you do a progressive structure where it's like if this is a repeat offender,
And that's-
you scale up,
Yeah,
up
you
to
could,
some whatever?
you could have the initial fine and then additional fees after the second, third, fourth, fifth violation.
And that is something,
And the other thing about it is, if you issue a fine that goes unpaid, it would block the registration or put a hole in the registration so that vehicle couldn't be retagged. The consequences are manifold. I mean, this ruins the streets, it blocks sight distance from people getting out of their driveways, causes the problems that Harry was just talking about, but it's something that really just shouldn't be tolerated. I mean, when you see it, you give them a ticket.
Well,
It
here's,
ruins the streets. That's part of what caused a lot of the potholes and stuff, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's what I was kind of smiling to myself a little bit when we were talking about the degradation on Roberts Mill Road. It's like, well, there's a few people up on the end that are helping that out.
And there's one thing that concerns us as far as the actual enforceability of when we go to issue something like this, and we spoke on it last week, Jim.
when it's attached.
Well, no,
to- okay.
what they can do once they get the ticket. You know what I'm talking about? The request that they can make after that.
Oh,
How do we manage that aspect? And I don't,
Sorry,
I-
what are you alluding to?
I was gonna say, you're
This is
talking
really
vague,
cryptic,
so.
and it's difficult for
so,
me to follow.
and this is,
so, right, if somebody opts to stand trial.
you can opt to
on
stand trial
something,
on your municipal citation. So let's say you get a citation from us to move your RV, and then let's say you're like, hey, well, they have a certain time frame of, they can come in and say, well, I want a trial, and then we're stuck, because we don't have it can't just, an officer just can't go in there and do it. The state prosecutor's not going to prosecute it. We'd spend attorney fees. And
And that, right, and that certainly is a
Oh,
risk,
it's
but
certainly
also that we have to keep in mind too, that that's going to seriously inconvenience the owner of the vehicle to make that demand, so they've got to
Well,
be willing to invest their time to do that if we actually were to go through with it, so.
My response to this is the same as it has been to some of the other talks in this vein is, are we going to enforce our laws or our ordinances or not?
Yeah.
And
The police are patrolling the town daily, and when they see violations, they know when a vehicle's been parked illegally. They issue them a ticket. They don't have to ask permission. They don't have to check with the zoning administrator.
That's also a risk for literally
just
anything
issue a
that we
ticket.
could.
yeah,
So
It
I mean,
is,
you can. We live in a pretty litigious society, right? So like you can challenge anything.
you can, I think you're going to see this challenged faster than other things. But it's not to say we shouldn't do it. The
I was gonna
question is,
say,
council just needs to be prepared for what that looks like when
yeah.
if the answer is you guys need to enforce it and we need to go the mile after that, if someone does request that we're going to spend the money on that then.
Yeah, I think.
I think we should put in the ordinance that and if they challenge it and if they lose, they pay attorney's fees.
So I think this is where the issue really will come down as to what, I guess, the judge awards them on something like that.
Just to
say
circle
it's
back to
fairly
the
cut and
need
dry.
the need to go back and review the fees and fines. 193.7 states that every duly authorized police officer of the city shall attach to any vehicle found to be in violation of this chapter a notice, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Each such owner may, within 48 hours of the time when such notice was attached to such vehicle, exclusive of Sundays and legal holidays, pay at the office of the treasurer as a penalty and in full satisfaction of such violation, the sum of $5.
Yeah, let's fix that. That may have worked in 1936,
Oh boy,
but
that is.
1983.
I know 1983, but still, come on now. We need to. But yeah, so
And that's what we're,
Let's,
when I
let-
was
I was
talking
gonna
about
say, let's work the admin side to see what we need to do to make this enforceable.
I think we need to certainly make the penalties a little stiffer.
and that's what it's gonna come down to, really, is if you want somebody to bat an eye, there has to be the penalties on it. Again, council just has to be aware, if you want it to be executed and enforced, one of the asks from the police department is that we follow through on it,
Right.
that it isn't just,
That's
hey, we've
right.
issued the penalty.
That's always
it.
been the challenge with municipal infractions is the,
Because
the
the follow-through now
prosecution
comes to
or
you.
lack thereof.
The
when
follow-through now
people-
comes to you guys, essentially. Again, whether you want to spend the money for the litigious effort to actually get it, that's not on us. Us is, us is issuing the ticket, telling them they can't do it. But we can't, that authority is going to fall to you guys when it comes up, so just be aware of that.
I think that
And there's a couple of different options we're looking at as
gonna
well.
do it, you do it, and if it becomes a problem because it's becoming a financial burden or it becomes a financial burden, then that's when you revisit it at that time. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen. We have some ideas of what could, but we have no actual data points to make a decision.
Just so I can have them start preparing this, though, we do want to see fees increase then. I think the idea is, when we're looking at
If
this,
the goal, yeah, if the goal is to actually create sticks,
yeah.
then $5 is
Yeah.
not gonna
And so my ask would
deter
be,
anybody.
this, is council good if we prepare that? I think,
Increasing fines won't help unless you enforce. That's the key right there.
Yeah. I
well,
was
we can
gonna say,
enforce,
have
we
to-
can
have to
enforce a
enforce it.
$5 all the time. There's a couple different factors that come into this. The idea of us going around towing RVs, that's gonna be a problem fast. Mainly space, we're gonna have to rent space. Again, there's a couple different problems that need to be worked out. I think the first is to actually have fees that have sticking points, because I think that's the first step.
Yeah.
But I think what we need to do is refer a fee like that, for instance, refer back to the fee schedule.
I
how
mean,
we do some of the
You don't
other
have to check all
fees.
the boxes right away.
Yeah,
Like,
and
you
that's
can
what,
figure stuff
and
out
that's what
over
I
time.
think we do, is, again, we work through it. When are we doing the fee schedule? When's it up? January?
Usually we look at it in January.
So
or
let's
do we talk
prepare.
about it in December? December, so.
So different fees that are
Only a
spelled
couple
out
weeks.
individually, monetary-wise in the code, let's try to find a list of that. Let's try to get edits made to where we can make it to where those refer to the fee schedule resolution. Let's add them to the fee schedule resolution so they're in one place that we can all look to see what those fees are. And then that's kind of the starting point, really. Because unless, if you go through code and you edit that 5 to 25, right? Well, 5 years down the road, somebody's gonna have to edit that code again to make it relevant. I think you do it through the fee
Wherever there's a
schedule.
dollar value in the code, we should be pulling that out and say that
And putting
it's set
fee
from time to
schedule.
time by
That doesn't
resolution of
make sense.
council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do for some of those numbers that we have there for those fees. We're gonna go ahead and get the ordinances prepared that say, as set by time to time to resolution. You guys set the resolution in January, and we'll have that talk in January then for that. So Jim, just be aware for staff to start preparing that for January conversation. That sound like a good action plan going from here. And again, we're still trying to tinker around to see what works best on the admin side for the actual enforcement. Again, from my understanding from TPD, the worry is just really the follow-through after that. Because again, the follow-through isn't necessarily us. It's, we can issue that, but there is the litigious follow-through after that that comes back to you guys. And historically, council hasn't been receptive to it. So again, we'll have that more conversation on that in January. Then we'll see what we can figure out on our end, get the ordinances prepared to change this to
We're
resolution.
paying for it one way or another. We're either paying for it in potential litigation, or we're paying for it and we have to fix the streets faster. So it's being paid for one way or another.
At some point, we have to enforce our rules. If that means we have to take somebody to court, or they take us to court about it, that's what happens. But if we have, otherwise our rules have no bite. There's nothing to them.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns on that? I think we have a path forward of what we're looking to do here. Again, there's going to be a council action, which is going to be that ordinance changes in the resolution for the fee schedule. I don't know if we're able to get those ordinances ready for December, Jim. Are they zone?
That's awfully close.
Yeah.
Especially with all the time off.
I mean, the general fee schedule, that's going to be more manageable.
Yeah, 'cause we
you know,
can change
because
that.
A lot of that is just, you know, I don't think we're in a position right now where we're going to, we need a bigger evaluation of our benefit assessment fees and such than I think we can do before December, because we haven't approved a CIP yet.
Yeah.
And that really should be helping to inform those benefit assessment fees. And we only reevaluate those once in a blue moon. But as far as the more routine things like the zoning fees and such, we know that we're undercharging for essentially all of those. You know, almost anything you want to do at your house is $10. And we spend far more than $10 to administer those zoning certificates. So that's a pretty quick fix, I think, just by trying to get to, you know, the typical time that it takes to process, go out in the field and inspect and so on. And, you know, we know what people's hourly rate is, so we can come up with a figure pretty quickly on those things. The fines related to vehicles and traffic and parking, that may take a little bit longer. We've been digging for
Yeah, we want something to
the
relate
last
it
time that
to.
my recollection is the last time we really updated fines related to the vehicles and traffic chapter was during the tenure of Chief Bill Tyler. So that's been quite a few years since the last time we really looked at that. And I don't believe back then we labeled our resolutions with what the topic was. They were just a number, so it's a little
Yeah,
painstaking to go back through.
Mackenzie's been trying to find it, but
Yeah,
she's been
Mackenzie's
having a tough
digging
time
for it,
finding
but
it.
she hasn't found anything yet. So, yeah, so that chapter may take a little longer to come up with new numbers on it.
But I think you know the marching orders from here
Yeah,
to
yeah.
them. So again, we'll get that prepared. January will be the next big point for that one. There's one other thing there's an ask that's come in from the school, which is, and we just took it out of the budget last year, which is an additional crossing guard. They believe they have someone who can fill the position. I said I'd bring it up today. It would have to go through a budget amendment process, even with a simplified budget. However, there is one issue, and it's mainly that we're currently the only municipality in Carroll County paying for a crossing guard. So the question comes back to, is there somebody else who should be handling this, which would really go back to, should the school system be paying the crossing guard, or should we? But I've even raised the proposal of us doing 50-50 on the crossing guard with the county, for instance, and that has not been warmly receptive. But again, Jim's checked with
Are
the
we
other
only
municipalities.
talking about like $1,500 a year?
Yeah, it's basically, it comes down to 8,000 per crossing, about 8,600 per crossing guard. I mean,
How are they handling it in other areas?
They don't have them. The municipalities don't provide them. One has a volunteer. We're the only municipality that pays crossing guards, or a crossing guard.
And it's not that we don't think there should be a crossing guard. I think the question just comes to, we don't manage anything else in the school systems. Why are we the ones being billed on the crossing guard part? And again, it's negligible money. It's 8,600, so it is still money. But I think the question comes down to is why wouldn't they want to partner on providing that service, essentially? And again, it's hard to get the justification if we're the only ones not doing it, or the only ones paying for it, I guess I should say.
Well, the county likes to make us pay for stuff that nobody else
And
does. So.
when I asked the school about it, the response was, well, the response was the county doesn't have the money for that. And it's no offense to the county base, but they have a stronger tax base than we do. That's 100%. So again,
Maybe the county does, but the schools don't necessarily.
No, and that's where I think that kind of conversation goes. But and again, it just comes down to we're fine either way, but it's going to take action on council's part if they want to fund that again. They say
We did just put in the comp plan that we want to help the schools.
I will say that, like, I'm sure
It's in
parents would
draft form.
prefer their kids be safe. Like,
Yeah.
But the residents.
Well, and
want.
right now, we have the police department going out there and helping with
They
crossing
can't go
guard
out
duty.
there every
They
morning.
can't, it's, I mean,
Somewhere there's a line between hiring somebody to hold a child's hand from the day, point they leave the house to the point they get to the school, and, we can't do that.
Where are we
Right.
looking at a second crossing guard?
So we're
King's
paying
Drive.
somebody,
It's King's Drive, right in front of the school, the elementary. It's
so
pretty.
we've
It's
put
because
the
it-
we've put the
during that
crossing
time,
guard.
It's very, very busy, and people
It
are
has
concerned
gotten pretty
about
crazy.
people, barreling down that road and,
And
hitting one of the elementary school kids.
and I don't disagree with the need. I think what really is it's kind of weird, because again, we didn't necessarily create this problem. The county created this problem when they started consolidating the bus routes. So they created a problem where we had more kids intersecting at Baumgartner, and then parents requested a crossing guard at Baumgartner, so did the Baumgartner one. And then we opened up a second position. Nobody filled it in, a year and a half that we had it open. Because it's a very niche position to fill. You get, an hour and a half morning, hour and a half in the evening. So they do believe they have somebody to fill right now. So if we funded it, they believe they could get it filled. So my ask would be from council from here to December, just think on whether you guys want that filled by us. I have Jim reaching out to the county to see if we can have more conversations on maybe a split. But I'm going to assume they're going to shoot back the answer no. So if council wants to budget it, again, it will take your guys' action to do it. We can't do it admin side. So just be aware you'll have to do a budget amendment for it.
Is this the commissioners saying no?
I brought it up to a commissioner here and there, and the reception hasn't gone anywhere. But
I'm sure there's a little bit of a concern of the domino effect
Yeah.
with that as well. And we certainly saw that where the commissioners waived some development-related fees for a project here in Taneytown. And the next month, a developer from another project
Said, "Hey, you did
approached
this
them.
thing,
And
so-"
so they sort of, opened the floodgates there. So it's very,
You're telling me none of the
Concerning,
schools
I'm
in
sure.
Westminster have crossing guards?
if they do, they're not
They're just
municipality
volunteers.
managed.
Gotcha.
Or again, volunteers. The question I think the city manager asked the other city managers was, hey, do you as a municipality pay for a crossing guard or manage the crossing guards? And the answer was all no, except one of them as a volunteer. So I think, again, my next directive to the city manager currently is to go straight to the county and speak with them to see if there is any wiggle room on that. But if there isn't, in the time that we're working on that,
We have to decide, yeah.
you have to decide whether you guys want to do the budget amendment in December. Again, I don't want to continuously keep placing an officer out there out of our day patrol. But I will say they do have a lot of traffic out there. There's a lot of kids that go through there. What really set this off was an incident where either a teacher got hit or there was a near miss hit. That's what really set off this ask, essentially. So again, we've been trying to brainstorm how we could accomplish this. And, some of the feedback was, are there teachers we could train up to be crossing guards? We can offer the training.
Teachers can't do it.
Yeah, and
They're
I guess
not
there's a
allowed
policy
by,
that
like,
they're not
policy.
allowed.
Administrators can, but I mean, it's finding administrators.
So, again, we're trying to look at the different avenues that aren't just us putting money into the problem. But again, it's $8,600, so just consider that from now till December, and we'll bring it up again in December. And I think that is pretty much all I got. I'm going to make one quick note. We had a meeting with some of the residents at Creekside. We're preparing kind of a dissertation post to Facebook for the Creekside community that goes over some of the ins and outs of what we can approve, what we can't approve in regards to Taco Bell, what the city stay is. We can't just say, no, you can't do this project. It's mainly just an explanation of what that process looks like for that community so they can better funnel, their concerns in a way that's more productive. So you guys might hear that, might see that. The idea is to hopefully get it out tomorrow. So that's the only thing I have. I'm going to go into council member reports unless somebody has a question before that. Head into council member reports, starting with Councilmember Collinock.
All right, in Parks and Rec, so we have the Christmas tree lighting and candy cane hunt on Saturday, December 6th at Memorial Park, starting at 4:30. Santa arrives at 5:30 p.m. We have the holiday decorating contest, which opens up on December 1st. You can register your house with Lorena by December 12th. Prizes include gift cards from local businesses. We are still waiting for the final site plan approval from State Highway and County Forest Conservation on the Memorial Park expansion project. The hope is that we'll have it within the next 2 months. Then the final approval from the Planning Commission, convey easement deeds to the county and release request for proposal. We hope to have shovels in the ground in late spring. And then, as the mayor mentioned earlier in the meeting, we this Saturday from 12 to 2 at the Taneytown Library, we have the table talk with both me and the mayor.
Councilmember Miller?
So at the Taneytown Police Department, we had Officer Sakadelis, Officer Darby, and Officer Dakota Myers instructed a 4-day weapon conversion red dot course for all active officers at the department. On October 27th, all active officers completed fall firearms training. Officers were required to qualify with duty rifles and were also exposed to low light conditions while conducting a course of fire with their department-issued duty rifles. For specialized training, we have Officer Sakadelis attended supervising patrol critical incidents on October 1st and 2nd. Officer Zach Myers and Officer Sakadelis attended crisis negotiation skills for first responders on October 3rd. Officer Dakota Myers completed Glock Armorer's course on October 14th, and with completion of this course, Officer Dakota Myers is now a certified Glock Armorer and will be part of a new gun inspection process soon to be implemented. Officer Zach Myers completed the 5-day, 40-hour basic crisis hostage negotiation course, which covered topics such as team roles and responsibilities, tactical coordination, threat risk assessment, ethical legal principles, mental health intervention, intelligence gathering, and scenario-based exercises. And we are also proud to announce that Officer Zach Myers will be joining the Carroll County Crisis Negotiation Team. Jeez. On October 28th, Officer Sakadelis and Officer Dakota Myers completed impact munitions training. As far as total dispatched or generated calls for service, there was 498 in October. Total citations issued, 25. Total warnings issued, 160. Total adult arrest, 13. And total juvenile arrest, 4. And for community outreach, October 5th, patrol officers provided security for a pro-life demonstration. October 7th, members of the Taneytown Police Department participated in the annual Polar Bear Plunge photo shoot in Annapolis. On October 22nd, Ms. Ingalls assisted the Carroll County Health Department with a car seat check event at the Taneytown Library. And on October 31st, all members of the Taneytown Police Department, joined by Mayor Miller and Commissioner Bigliotti, handed out over 3,000 glow necklaces during Trick or Treat. That wraps it up.
Councilmember Meade?
Planning Commission's been busy since the last time we had a council meeting. I'll go quick. We've had 3 meetings, including 2 comprehensive plan meetings and one standard planning commission meeting. On the comprehensive plan meetings, there's a general feeling of not being entirely thrilled with the consultants that have been putting together the plan, but we'll see how that goes. This past meeting that we just had, we ran basically page by page through the entire draft comprehensive plan, and all of the members of the Planning Commission were able to bring notes for anything that they felt needed to be either explained, addressed, changed, etc. There were a few relatively mid-level things that needed to be taken care of. Otherwise, there was a lot of this needs to be explained, that needs to be explained, that sort of thing. The comp plan will, and I don't know the timetable on it, but the comp plan will be eventually approved out of the planning commission, and it will come to us here on council, and I can do a lot more explaining when everything's in front of us. For the actual planning commission meeting, you've heard the drama of the McDonald's, so I won't belabor that one. Evapco is expanding their parking lot even further. Only thing we added to that was some extra sidewalking. And then there is the Taco Bell that is proposed to be across the street from McDonald's. Side note from me, also a brown and gray box. There has been a lot of community concern and comment about the entrance, the proposed back entrance of that commercial property onto Amicus, and I expect that we'll be bringing that up, and there'll be even more discussion on Monday because we've got another planning commission meeting on Monday. Other than that, we're moving right along, and nothing to report on any other projects. Aside from the hardware store did go through its preliminary plan that is planned for over kind of across from Kraus Ford, a little bit further down. And personal opinion, I like it. Looked really good.
Councilmember McCarron?
To keep it brief, I didn't have a chance to talk with Kevin in detail before the meeting, but one of the things that he's pretty concerned about, and I guess it's just a matter of the route that we're in, is the well levels are pretty tenuous, or getting to be pretty tenuous. We were able to turn on well 15 in October, which has been off for lost a pump on well 16, so we had to replace that. That's back in service. He's encouraged that changed, there'll be less people watering their gardens and washing their cars and such. So that's probably the biggest concern that we have. We had that barn fire on Old Taneytown Road last week and hooked into one of our fire plugs, and that didn't help our water situation any. I don't know whether he had any low pressure problems or not, Jim, but I suspect that that didn't ease the problem any. I'll put it that way. I hope to have a more thorough report for December. The 250th committee, I want to say a few words about that while I'm here. America's 250th birthday. We've been meeting monthly on the first Monday of the month, and quite frankly, we've got a pretty good group meeting. We've added to our numbers over the last couple months. Bob Jones is a tremendous asset. He is really kind of running the show. Lorena's doing a good job, and everybody is moving forward. So I hope to have a summary in December of some of the things we've got planned. We've got one feature day set for June that is kind of be a big deal, but then we're going to have other events throughout the years, and I hope to be able to get that on a handout that I can give out in December. So, ended the museum 250th meeting today too, and they're looking at kind of a neat project where they've kind of grouped the period in 50-year periods. In other words, 1776 to 50 years later, and then on up the line. and they've assigned each one of their members, or each one of the committee members, a particular segment, like somebody's going to be focusing on the architecture, somebody's going to be focusing on the religion, some people are going to be focusing on the wars, some people's going to be one person's going to be focusing on there's five, I can't remember all the five of them, but anyway, it's going to be a pretty neat deal. Something I learned from the meeting, that not only, believe this or I read it for myself, not only did George Washington visit Taneytown, but Thomas Jefferson visited Taneytown. We found some documents in his diaries where he reportedly was on his way to Philadelphia, as was George Washington, and I remember the date. But he stopped at a tavern here for breakfast he had an overnight stay in Frederick, and then he was on the road and got to Taneytown by breakfast time, and stopped at one of the taverns here in Taneytown for breakfast, and also had some saddle work done. He had the saddle repair in Taneytown. Two famous visitors, so anyway, that's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to share a piece of good news before we adjourn. So this will be new for the council. Since we last met, we did receive another PFAS settlement payment, this one from DuPont. The amount that we received was $60,994. So just forgot to mention that during my report, so just wanted to give you guys a heads up.
Sounds good, thank you. We got Thanksgiving meal drive going on. We got the pantry drives going on. Economic Development Small Business Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on November 29th. So that's Saturday after Black Friday. Multiple vendors are going to have outside vendors. There's going to be different things happening in some of the different businesses here. For instance, Ambassadors will have a set up. Burlap Door will have a set up. Deja Vu has a set up. And again, they'll have vendors on the street as well. There will be music. You can just put it on that council's radar if you don't have something to do on the 29th. Council's also invited to come with me on basically a business stroll. We stroll up and down. Me and the commissioner normally do it every small business Saturday. Go through the businesses, meet, greet, take part in the activities, do some purchases. So again,
Is there any way that it can be publicized a little more between now and then?
yeah, I think they're trying. I'm not. Again, I know they're sharing it on Facebook and they're posting it out, and I do know they put flyers through the businesses and whatnot. I don't know what else they're doing in regards to it.
Yeah, just like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I haven't seen
Yeah.
hide nor hair of a small business Saturday event. So
If we could ask that we can get that flyer to all of you, and maybe you can share it on your personal social media and help get the word out that way as well. So we certainly will try to, hammer the social media posts, and we'll of course have it on Taneytown Connect and such as well. So
Sounds good. If you don't mind just giving the feedback to Bob, advertisement.
yep.
Other than that, I'm looking for a motion of adjournment.
So moved.
Look for a second.
second,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.